everybody. Freaking watching Mero goofing off at the bottom of my screen while the intro played. Sorry that we were a little bit late. Mero was dealing with some hardcore tech gremlin infestations, namely because her computer just decided, you know what, we don't feel like dealing with. Your camera just don't exist no more. Like, it just ain't, it's just gonna be a black screen for a minute.
I will admit this will end up being like a tradition of ours, I do believe. I think this is going to be a tradition. I go and play RimWorld with a friend of mine every Sunday night, my time. And there's a running joke. It's like, oh, okay, let's restart my computer 4,000 times. All right, cool. All right, that's done. Now I can get into RimWorld, and then, you know, so it's always a fun thing to do. But
so welcome, y'all. We have actually solved the response video problem from the first stream that I did, which was, it was like, you know what, we don't feel like doing this time. We don't feel like doing audio. Mero and I actually did experiment with it before the stream, and we got it to work. So y'all get to hear the audio at the same time, and we're both more or less coming to this particular video blind. Mero proposed it the last time we did a Xenia Bridge together. Unfortunately, because her work is rude, she ended up getting called in last week, so you guys had a whole extra week to raise money. We raised over $600 between the 5 servers that participated in direct donations, not to me, not to Mero, but directly to the charities with screen caps provided. So, like, I believe a total of 15 or 16 people across 5 different servers raised a total of over $600. So I'm really excited. I will not be reading off the donation amounts for each person because I feel like that's a personal thing, but I will be reading off people's usernames and what message they wanted, or if they didn't want a message, I'll just mention that they donated and give their username. So if you want to keep donating during the charity stream, there are 2 options for you. The first is the one we recommend, which is, there's a link at the bottom of the every one of my videos, there's a link at the bottom of the video that says, in the description, that says Discord. I would highly suggest donating directly to one of the 3 charities there and posting a screen cap. You can redact your name if you want, in a ticket on my Discord server. In order to open up a ticket, all you have to do is go to the tickets channel and click the emoticon, and it'll open one up for you. My mods are on standby. They will tag me and let me know when new stuff comes in. We have a whole bunch of donation messages that we're going to be reading throughout the stream from people who have already done this, including one each from Mero and I, because we both gave donations as part of the fundraiser before we actually announced it publicly. So we're both really excited about that. But there are 3 different charities that we are currently raising money for. Any super chats you give, 1/3 is going to go to YouTube, which is why we are recommending people go directly to the charities, post something in tickets. We're going to keep track of how much is raised during the stream in both tickets and super chats. But because YouTube takes 1/3 of it, we are going to donate all of the super chats from this stream directly to the fundraiser, like to the various charities. Specifically, we're going to be donating to Voices of Children because that's the one that's raised the least out of all of them. But we recommend instead going directly to the charity and trying to donate. Anybody who donates more than $10 will get your message read off on screen some point during the stream. We're hoping to go for at least 3 hours. We might go a little longer than that, but I'm not sure I'm going to have the endurance for much more than 3, so we'll see what we can do. I also have Luna to look after, and she's got medication schedule and such. So with that in mind, I'm really proud of this community. Like, Mero and I were both absolutely freaking floored by how many of you all came out for, like, during the 2-week sort of fundraising period where we recommended everybody, hey, if you put a thing up, $10 or more to any one of these charities, we'll read off your message during that stream. All of you are going to get your messages read off at some point. I'm not going to front load them because folks are going to watch this in post and they're going to want to see what was going on. All of the ad revenue that generates from this stream also on my channel prior to the end of this month will also be going to charity. So I'm going to keep track of that from the limited way that YouTube lets me go. So everything to do with this stream is going straight to charity. Yeah. Also, YouTube does take 1/3. They take 1/3 of all super chats. It's why we recommend, if you're doing a charity stream, donate directly to the charity. Take a screen cap, redact your name or bank details if you need to. Just let us know how much you gave, and we will read your stuff off.
Also, I have had 2 nights in a row of about 3 hours of sleep because, hey, yay, insomnia. So I need to have an excuse to get up and jump around. So I have said to Ali, for every $50 uh, um, donated, I will do 10
During
star
this
jumps
course of the stream.
during the course of the stream. Not now, because I would be catching up, but during the course of the stream, $50, I will be doing 10 star jumps. So I need you guys to do that for me. Also, if we hit, was it $500?
Yes.
I will name my 2 girls need to be fed today. So I'll name one of them Nice, that I feed them Vladimir, and the other one Putin.
And
then
you said you'd post a video of them getting fed to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll do that. And also, if $1,000 during the stream gets raised, I will go over to Lilith's tank and get her to buy me. So if you want to cause me pain, everyone work together. Because you all hate me, you know that. But if you could all do that, get together, raise $1,000, and you will get to see me being eaten by a snake.
All right, so with that out of the way, I am going to read the first couple of messages that we had from the prior fundraising period off. From Ikeda Hakubi, the perpetual sugar daddy of this channel, we have a kind of message: no jokes tonight, just respect and best wishes for the heroes of Ukraine. So that's from Ikeda Hakubi. From one of my mods, who is goes by Child of Nyx. This affront against the sovereignty of Ukraine shall not be tolerated. I stand with the people of Ukraine. And the next donation that we had that came in was from the system, the Phoenixes, and they couldn't think of anything, so they just wanted to showcase that they donated. So that's the first few donations that we've got. We're going to be reading more of them throughout the stream. We've got about 16 of them to go through, so that's exciting. But before we get started on PragerU, as per usual, y'all know that one of the things we love to do on this channel is tell you about the horrible things that are going on in the world that you probably haven't heard of because it's either barely being covered or like nobody cares except for the people being affected, which sucks. So like, let's get more people to care. You know, if 45 more of you care about these horrible things that are going on in the world, then, you know, at the very least, like, your world might be darkened a bit, but maybe some good can be done. So Marrow has had some shit going on in her home area, from what I've heard. Like, there's some stuff going on. Like, you were telling me that Australia is as underwater right now as it was on fire last year.
Oh, the year before that, in 2019. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a very famous poem by Mary MacKillop called I Love a Sunburnt Country. And basically she goes, I love a sunburnt country, blah, 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 a place of drought and flooding rains. And yes, my home, I grew up in the area of Lismore, and it has had a 14.4 meter flood. That is the highest flood in record. So it's
and that's saying something
bad,
considering y'all get flooded every year.
Oh, pretty much. Oh, more or less. Yeah, it's either we're in the middle of a drought or in the middle of a flood. Like there's no in between. And so basically what's happened is a bit like, and this is, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant. I hope you don't mind, but can everyone please fucking care about my country? Can the worldwide media fucking care about my country? And the reason why I'm getting a bit shitty about this is that when everyone first learnt about Australia being on fire, Australia had been on fire for 3 months beforehand. And but no one knew about it until December because no one actually cared. No one and then this time around, I think very few people really actually knew about it as well.
I found out about the flooding through you because you were like, did you know that my country is flooding? And I'm like, well, I do now because you're my friend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and
then we both went and Googled it and couldn't find, like, I think maybe one news outlet that was not native Australian talking about it. Like one. Everything else was was a .au.
Yeah, so it's look, I kind of understand it a bit more this time around because war. But during the
But you said
bushfires,
the flood started like a week before the war, though.
yeah, something like it started getting pretty bad. Where I live, I had to like there was some. I personally didn't get affected by it. I lost power twice, but you know that's kind of
That's mild compared to like the people's
yeah.
entire houses and businesses that are getting carried away.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like as I said, so what happened was it was in Lismore. That was the place that got hit the hardest. So I grew up in that area, so I have family members and friends, and I was sitting watching the news, going, yeah, I worked there. That was a place of my, that was a business that I worked in. I mean,
Well, that was a business. The
that
building's
was a
gone
business that I
now.
worked. Well, the building's still there, but I'm not sure about the business. But I think was it 2017. Lismore was hit by another massive flood, and when I
Sorry,
went
is
down,
the news always ignores Australia's issues. Like we didn't find out about the wildfires in Australia in the States for the most part on like anything close to front page news until several months in. But
yeah,
like
yeah,
Marrow had been,
no,
and Marrow told her audience all about it. Like it's just
yep. Yeah, I did a thing with Godless Engineer, and I was like, "Hey, everyone, if you want, it's my country's on fire for fuck's sake, everyone." And yeah, and it was just one of those. It's one of these things, and that's why I'm like, that was I had that tiff with Cosmic Skeptic because he used the fires in Australia to push his vegan agenda, and the thing that got me even more angry about it was not just because he was using a national tragedy where people were dying and losing their houses for him to push his vegan agenda. It was also that
Marrow,
we were on fire for the past three months.
Marrow, we just got $100 worth of donations just came in all at once.
All right, 20. So, can someone count?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You bonus. You got a bonus one.
Yay! All right. I need that. Also, I need to make sure I do my 250 steps according to my Fitbit. Anyway, so yeah, just letting everyone know that my hometown was underwater. One of my
one person decided to donate $100 just because.
And thank you very much to that person. So what I was going to say is, so one of my uncles, he basically lost his house. I mean, I think the structure's still there, but he got flooded through.
If anybody who's ever had water damage inflicted, like you don't really have much of a house left once you have water damage. Like we thankfully didn't lose much of our furniture because most of the furniture in the basement was either metal or just not like it was. The stuff that could have been damaged were in the 2 rooms that barely got hit. Most of it, though, we did end up having to replace our treadmill because water got into the springs that would protect your feet, like that absorbed some of the shock. So, like, the big thing with our flood was our walls got soaked. And what most people don't know is even if they start to look like they're dry, they might not be. And you can get black mold that grows in your walls pretty quickly. And Australia is kind of known for a lot of flora and fauna that can just kill you. And it has a whole bunch of unique fungal species that can do horrible, horrible things to your body. So, like, you think black mold is bad here in the States. Imagine what can happen if you don't have a house anymore because the water swept your crap away, and now almost everything you own that is wood or like the drywall for your house, because most houses are built out of drywall. Like most people don't have brick or wood houses anymore. Like your support beams now have water soaked into them, so you got mold growing up those. Like it absolutely wrecks you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, we
got another $100 donation from the Snake Sarius. Sarius, if you want to submit, I'm pretty sure I've seen you in my Discord. If you want to submit that in a ticket, I can read off whatever message you'd like.
13,
5,
14, 15,
16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You like that bonus, man.
Yeah, so, but one of my uncles, he had a herd of cattle, not a herd, like he had 6 cattle, and I think all but 2 survived. Yeah, no, it's absolutely devastating. And my prime minister, being the prime minister that he is, he took a week to go up and see flood-affected areas.
So Sarius, what you would do is if you are in my Discord server, which I'm pretty sure I've chatted with you on there. If not, then the link to join Discord is in the description. Join my Discord server, post a screen cap of your donation. You can take your legal name out of it if you want to. In a ticket, you click the little icon to react to the ticket channel, and I can read off whatever super chat you would like. Lizzie TT, Nervardia came up with the idea that for every $50 donated during the stream, directly to charities or through super chats, she will do 10 jumping jacks.
I call them star jumps because that's a much better name.
John the Apostate, hope the stream is going well. It is going extremely well. We are up to $600 before the stream started and $200 raised during the stream.
Yeah.
None of that has touched our bank accounts, like the $5 and the 2 $5 super chats we got, one from Jelly Bean and the one just now from John the Apostate. Both of those are also going to go to charity, minus the 1/3 that YouTube takes. So we're going to be tracking that as well as the ad revenue from this stream until the end of the month. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, but we were started off by talking about the Australian flooding because most of y'all have probably never heard of that because, well, as we've said, unfortunately, the media doesn't care about Australia, which means that nobody cares about Australia except for Australia. And that's wrong because, well, as much as Mero might be from an imaginary continent, we love her and she's my co-host. So she absolutely deserves to have like the suffering and tragedy going on recognized. Like, we're not trying to take away from what's going on in Ukraine. It's obviously just as much of a tragedy there, but we want y'all to know about this stuff.
Yeah. So the
Lizzie, it's to keep her awake. Thank you so much for the $5, Carbuncle.
Thank you. So the our prime minister, because you know what, he's doing really well. So he's been in Australia 2 of the 3 tragic. No, he's been outside of Australia in Hawaii of 2 of the 3 disasters that have happened during his prime ministership. So he went to Bali. He went to Hawaii in the middle of the bushfires. He went to Hawaii in the middle of the COVID pandemic. But this time around, like, you know, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. He actually was in Australia while Australia was being flooded. So
I think everybody's angry with Australia all the time. I think Australia is angry at itself.
Oh, I'm fucking furious at myself. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know who is the god of fire, because the god of fire also likes to join in the hate.
I mean, there are multiple gods of fire. It depends on which aspect of fire you are talking about. Because remember, in Hellenism, as you have learned slowly over time, you poor atheist ally, you, like, there's no god of anything. There's, like, aspects and domains. So, like, it depends on what kind of fire. If you're talking about a hearth, that would be Hestia. If you're talking about other kinds of fire, I mean, Hephaestus is in there. There are deities associated with volcanoes and various specifics. Like, what are we talking here?
Destructive fire.
Sriram Hrishikesh, I think, I was told not to pronounce the H when I last stopped, says Agni in India. Asina says Pele, which would be Polynesian. So there's those 2. There's a number of different, like, Typhon comes to mind in, like, Greek stuff because he's buried below Mount Etna. So, like, it's said that when he, quote, comes back, there will be, to, like, ravage the world again, it will cause the mountain to erupt. So there could be some associations there.
Okay. Well, I wish they'd stop.
So Sarius, by the way, did submit the proof of donation. So Sarius says bad at shout out things, but thank you so much for the $100 donation. That means we've raised $200 from the stream plus the 15 in super chats, which will be closer to 10 because Google gets 5 of that. But thank you guys so much for your support. Again, we highly recommend going to the links and submitting a ticket in the server instead of donating directly through Google, because Google takes a cut, and we want as much of this to make it to Ukraine as possible. We selected these specific charities because we couldn't find any sort of strong religious ties with them, and also 2 out of the 3, the United Help Ukraine and Voices of Children, are in Ukraine based. So your money is guaranteed to go to Ukraine if you donate to them.
Yeah. Ben Yi says Australian natural disasters were a lot in the news here in Germany, at least until the war. Since the Great Flood in West Germany, a lot of media has been pushing for camaraderie. Awesome. Thank you.
One country
Germany.
cares about Australia.
A singular country. I'm pretty sure New Zealand probably had talked about it too, because New Zealand's our mates, even, and they actually don't get put on the maps. So, they're more non-real than we are. So
thank you for another $5 super chat, Carbuckle. Thank you so much. If you're having a hard time with messages getting through, like if you're actually trying to put in messages, then just type out your message afterwards. I saw both of your super chats. Yes, Bernie be like, as a German. He's got a special role in the server because of memeing around that. All right, so with that, we were going to respond to a PragerU video, unless you've got a bit more ranting left in you for the server. Now that you've energized yourself with all those jumping jacks, like you're getting your workout already. Like we're 20 minutes into the stream and you've already had to do 40 of them.
Okay, I will say, Peter Dutton is one of our members of Parliament. Put up her GoFundMe to raise money for people who were affected by the floods, of which everyone was like, "Hang on, aren't you?"
Yes, he actually does. The server rioted until he did.
So Peter Dutton was like, let's raise money, and everyone was like, "Aren't you the government?"
Yeah, I mean, like this is like a thinky emoji moment. Like,
So everyone the majority of people who donated to his GoFundMe did it to dunk on him, and then a comedy duo went, all right, here's another GoFundMe here. How about we raise money for flood victims? And they raised much more money than the Peter Dutton one. So it was pretty funny. And apparently the
Carbuckle apparently had an answer to your question from earlier, but for some reason it's not. Is it showing up on? There we go. These were supposed to be a super chat. Norse doesn't have a deity of fire, but Loki is associated with fire and could easily be messing with your country.
Probably. I mean, we don't have much snow here, so there's probably got something to do with that because of frost giants. I don't know. I've had bugger all sleep, so I'm sorry if I just said something really, really insensitive. Yeah. So
loading. Finding your thought again. Loading.
So when apparently the SES, the State Emergency Service, said no to the army coming in twice, and here were people being stuck on their roofs for 8 hours, and it was just a shit show, because that's what you get for having Morrison in control of the country.
So
I'm sorry,
actually, if you are looking to help out with the Aussie floods, it is not a part of this fundraiser officially, but I know folks are interested. The State Emergency Services of Australia actually does accept donations directly from people. They're a charity that works directly with the government to get people relief. So you actually can find that information online. Mero actually gave me a link beforehand, and I lost it somewhere, but I'm sure she'll post it in the chat because she has mod privileges.
Yay! Hang on.
So we got a quick question about the PragerU. Mild transphobia. The name of the video that we're responding to is called Why Is God a He? And at the beginning, I watched the first minute of it and then like stopped because I was like, okay, I want to kind of fresh react to it. But the first minute of the video has a like refusal to acknowledge they them pronouns as existing. Like they say there's 3 pronoun options, he, she, and it. And it's like, hi, I use they them pronouns. And I stopped it right about there. So apart from that, as far as I know, like this is more of a like they're trying to explain Christianity badly type video than it is a like any sort of transphobia or anything. However, as the stream goes on, we might take requests for other videos to react to, and we will try to give appropriate trigger warnings. We ask that if you request one, please give appropriate trigger warnings if you request another PragerU video for us to react to other than just this one. Yeah. But Marrow's going in blind. I've only seen the first minute.
Yeah, I'm going in blind, so I've got no idea what's going on. So you get to see my facial expressions as I go.
All right, so are we ready? Are we finishing up our thoughts on the Australian flooding? We'll come back to it throughout the stream, I'm sure, because we're just going to get mad at random stuff. If people want to post other news articles and things for us to react to, they need to be from credible sources. So, like, if it is an extreme left or right-wing bias, we probably won't look at it. This means stuff like The Guardian is not necessarily a good source, that kind of thing. But we will be taking requests throughout the video for PragerU videos, for news articles, stuff to react to. Like we're going to be around for at least the next 3 hours, or I guess the next 2.5 hours. So with that out of the way, let's get the video up on screen. So we're going to be Why Is God a He? Share tab audio. Let's go ahead and react to this because we'll be pausing about every minute or so. But
okay. Also, as an atheist, God is not a he or a she or an it or a they or a them.
Sean, yes, that was me. That was my video. Is Yahweh a trickster deity? Is one of the earliest videos I made. The audio is atrocious. I'm quite ashamed of the editing, but you know what? Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Oh yeah, you should see my first video. It was fucking horrible.
All right, so we're gonna get about a minute in, do some reactions, and I'll read a few more of the donations. So let's get this video started. Again, trigger warning for minor transphobia at the beginning, but that's about all I know about this video.
It's PragerU.
One of the criticisms many people make against the Bible is that it depicts God in male terms. The most obvious example is God is referred to as he. Why did the Bible do this? Well, here's the answer. Because the Bible is preoccupied with making a kinder, less violent, more just world.
What? What? Wait, what?
Ramon,
can somebody do the meme, like the lady meme with all of the math? Because like I'm just like blank faced right now. How does referring to a deity in the masculine make a kinder, more like what leaps of logic do you have to? Is there logic involved here, or are they just sucking on their own fumes? Like I don't even understand what. I'm sorry. I wish I had something more like organized and coherent. I'm gonna let Marrow. Maybe you've got more brain left than I do because I'm just like staring blankly at my screen right now.
Well, I've had like 6 hours sleep in the past 48, so there's no brain left in me. But even still, I've got more brain than this video. Okay,
that's not hard with PragerU.
I will say. We were recently talking about flooding. There was this thing called Noah's flood, and apparently he did that to right the wrongs of his, he made a mistake, and therefore he destroyed the world to make it kinder. Like, I don't know.
Remember, he's incapable of mistakes. He had to have chosen to do that because he's omniscient and omnipotent. So that could not have been a mistake. He planned for angels to have body parts and breed with humans, and for humans to be corrupt. Like, apparently that was somehow part of his plan, and so was the flood.
Yeah. So apparently having people lose literally everything. So basically what Lisma went through, is not violent. I mean, I think it's pretty violent. Like, obviously, it's not, it's not a violence from a conscious being to another conscious being. Like, but even still, like, it was violent. People lost
Well, I mean,
everything.
if God is omniscient, then God is a conscious being. It's a conscious being to a lot of other conscious beings that were apparently ants before that being. So, like, but again, like, how does that have to do with God being a what? I don't understand how masculinity has anything, how masculine pronouns has anything to do with the world being less violent or more just. They've got like literally 5 minutes exactly to pitch this concept to us, and I do not have faith in them so far.
Well, also,
If you share,
you can also argue, you can also argue, and I'm not boiling this down to the bullshit around like testosterone making men more violent, rah, 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 even though I don't know, I'm not up to date in the science of that at the moment, but like how is a male going to make, like, there are arguments that I've heard from a lot of people who boil down that are like sex realism to say men are more violent, and yet he's also saying that men are making it like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does that. Women are more likely to be nurturing, caring because they can shit out babies, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
all right, so I'm going to read off a couple more donation messages. So from Nervardia's server, we have Atheistic Snail, who was kind enough to donate and sent me a DM with the screen cap because we didn't have a ticket system set up there yet. So let me pull that up really quick. We have the message that I was asked for. Not much, but at least it's something. So thank you so much, Atheistic Snail. We also have a donation from Bowser from the same server.
Do I need to do star jumps?
Oh, wait, nope, it's Bowser. No, these were pre-stream donations that came in. So Bowser was not much, at least it's something. Let's see. I am trying to see if I found, did I get a message from Atheistic Snail? Did I get one? Let's see. Yes, please. I did not get a message from Atheistic Snail, so it was Bowser's message that I read first. And then we have a donation from Kunabellinus from the Polytheistic Theology server, and there was not a message attached to that one either, just a donation. So those are all pre-stream donations that had come in. So thank you guys all so much for your pre-stream donations. I just wanted to make sure that I got some of that read off before we continue on the video. So let's see if they manage to convince us in the next 5 minutes.
Before we start, sarcastic Tessinisis. Liberal snowflakes are always so mad about pronouns. Lol. Also conservatives. He's a he. Damn it.
Well, I will give, like, the 1 minute that I saw, they did say something about, like, God transcending gender. So, I mean, that's the most progressive thing I've heard from PragerU. But, like, it also makes no sense then why God would be referred to. Let's keep going because I haven't seen the whole thing. So let's see if it gets better.
Share these goals, and I suspect you do, then you'll have to agree the Bible made the right decision. Before I explain, however, I need to add an obvious caveat. The God of the Bible is neither male nor female. God transcends gender. What I'm talking about here is why God is depicted in male terms in the Bible.
Okay, so that clarification almost makes their earlier argument worse somehow, make even less sense, because, like, why would depicting something that is agender, which I agree, by the way, that the gods are neither male nor female. I think that a lot of, like, gods and goddesses generally, the way that they are depicted showcases the human understanding of gender from the particular culture. So, like, a male-dominated culture is going to have their head god be male, vice versa with a more feminine-dominated culture. You know, it also tells you a bit about how, for example, a lot of ancient languages, and even some modern ones, like even particularly Romance languages, Greek, etc., a lot of words were gendered, and that tells you a lot about how that culture thought about those concepts. And so given that a lot of gods were either named after their like concepts that they were a part of, like Arete being named after virtue and being goddess of virtue, among other things, you know, the gods were a lot more complex and had many different, like, how can I explain epithets? They had many different names that they were called on for worshipers to indicate which of their aspects they were like specifically asking for help for. It was part of how prayers were said to convince the gods to help people. And so when you're looking at gendered descriptions, a lot of the time that has to do with the way that those concepts were understood by that ancient culture rather than the gods themselves having gender. So that is the only thing that so far I think I've agreed with PragerU on, is that any god is going to transcend gender, because why would gods need gender expression? Like most of what we associate with gender has to do with a combination of expected sex characteristics, because for a long time those two things were synonymous, even though like in gender roles have always been societal, and you know, like various societal roles. And so if you're talking about the gods are not pack animals like humans are, where societal roles and such are set up in order to create community cohesion. So this idea of gender expression, they could have gender potentially, but I don't see what use it would be to them. Like it's more useful for us to view them as having gender so we can understand who they are better. But, you know, there's the entire Etruscan pantheon, which has a whole bunch of gender-bent artwork as far as the way that the rest of the Hellenic world sort of depicted things. There's a lot of very interesting nuances, even just within the Greek pantheon regarding gender, not to mention, you know, the gender freakiness that happens over in the Norse pantheon. The gods can depict themselves however they feel like, and various people depicted them in myths in different ways based off of their understanding of those concepts.
Also,
so we got a $5 super chat from Sean. I'm a libertarian, but PragerU makes me cringe like crazy. All right, I'll let you go, Mero. Sorry, I just wanted to kind of cover that bit.
Fair enough. Also, as a person who has a science degree, and also a person who is not a religious person, God basically became Jesus. Like, you know, some people believe that Jesus is practically God, but Jesus was born to a woman, but to a virgin woman, which means that he would have got his genetic information from one source, his mother, meaning that Jesus is a woman. So their own arguments that God is a man cannot happen if they believe that God is literally Jesus is literally God. So, you know, my argument, and I actually one of my first ever videos that I've ever done was my hypothesis that God is actually female, because I used like arguments of you know, she gets kind of horny, and so you've got like so you've got animals that fuck until they die, you know, and she's also a bit kinky, and then after a while she feels a little bit happy, and then she ends up being
God is agender, Jesus is a trans man. You know, this is shaping up to be the I almost knocked over my mic. This is shaping up to be the most progressive PragerU video they've ever published, in fact. At least until they fuck it up in about 2 seconds, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So yeah, and then after a while she's happy, she makes a cute little bunny rabbits and things like that, and then after a while she goes to a party, she ends up on acid, so she makes these really weird ass animals. And then
Philip Burnett House brings up an interesting point on that subject. Interestingly, the Holy Spirit was said to have used its powers to conceive Jesus with Mary's, as in ancient apocryphal gospels, because the Holy Spirit was understood as female.
Okay.
So that's literally like, okay, so that's two different quote unquote genetic sources that are both female. So Jesus was a trans man, confirmed. Also potentially born of a lesbian relationship and raised by a straight couple. Lavender marriage, confirmed.
Yeah, anyway, so after a while, like, you know, for a few days, later she ends up, getting really feeling like shit. She's a bit cranky. She then, so she makes all the really evil looking animals, and then like basically all of Australia, really. And then for the first day of her period, she ends up making slime and blobfish and things like that. Because if you look at animals in the animal kingdom, it makes sense. Because if you follow the menstrual cycle, you get really horny, and then you also have fun, happy days. You feel fine, and then a few days before your period, you feel like kicking everybody in the face. And then the first day of your period, you just want to curl up and cry in a ball. And I just went, there you go, God's a woman. Just using that.
That's perfect. All right, so we have, that would mean that Jesus has 3 moms.
Yeah, Holy Trinity, baby.
But we do need to respect God's lack of gender identity, of course.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's try to get this going. Let's get some further along.
Gender-wise, the Bible had 3 choices: masculine, he; feminine, she; or neuter, it.
Okay, so this is my time to remind everybody that although technically I don't know if there's a they them in Hebrew, but as far as pronouns go that modern translators could use, there's a 4th option there, plus neopronouns, but there's a 4th option there, they them, one of my main pronoun choices.
Mm-hmm.
Like they them. Also, fun fact, most of the time where you see he or God in the Bible, it's actually one of the many different epithets for the Jewish deity throughout the Bible. So a lot of the time, he, him is actually a translation of one of those epithets. Same with God. So a lot of the time when you see he, him in Bibles in the modern day, that's a translation of one of the names of God. So,
interesting.
Yeah, Hebrew does not have gender neutral options, and I'll bring that up in a second because we're getting to the end part of what I've seen so far. But as far as like translators go, the he him thing, a lot of that is actually a mistranslation of one of the names of God. So
That's
anyway, but yeah, there's a they them. I don't know if they them exists in Hebrew, but there's a they them in English that folks can use when translating the Bible and just don't.
Mm-hmm.
We can readily rule out neuter. For one thing, neuter nouns don't exist in Hebrew, the language of the Old Testament, which, after all, first introduced this God to us. For another, the biblical God is a personal God to whom we can and must relate.
I
We
can't.
cannot relate to, let alone obey or love, an it.
Yep. So, okay. Hello, atheist here. Even if God was real, I will not relate to it. I will not relate to the Abrahamic God. Do you know why? Because I'm not a fucking asshole. So, oh, by the way, RIP, what's it called? Monetization. Sorry. But yeah, I cannot relate to God because I cannot, in my heart of hearts, have the concept of sending someone to hell for eternity for not believing I exist. I just cannot do that. And if you can relate to a deity that will send someone to a torture chamber for all eternity, then please go and seek some help, because that's not okay. Torturing someone for all eternity for something as simple as going, I don't believe you exist. I'm not going to relate to it. Therefore, I'm not going to obey, because I don't obey stupid laws that are cruel. I just, if it's an unjust law, I won't obey it. I won't love something that has the tenacity to, again, punish a person for all eternity for something as simple as saying, I don't believe you in you. I don't believe you. I would,
or even just because he could. Like, anybody ever read the book of Job?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't love my phone. It's my phone. It's very pretty. It's my phone. I don't really love it, but I appreciate its existence. But I have some snakes. I have pet snakes. They, as far as I'm aware, do not have the neural capacity to love me, but fuck, I love them. And I can't. And even if they had no gender, I would probably love it. There's lots of things. Who here has not loved a teddy bear? Like when you were a kid, you had a pet, you had a teddy bear or something, and you're like, I love it.
I didn't have stuffies growing up, but I had a baby blanket that I still have, by the way. Here's a bit of fun fact so y'all can make fun of me. I still have my baby blanket that somebody from my mother's work crocheted for me before I ended up living with my grandparents for a bit. It has a name. It has pronouns. She is a she, and she was named after my fish tank when I was like 5 or 6 because we had a fish tank in my room that I fell asleep to the like sounds of the filter every night. And I still have her, and I still actually like use her to sleep because I've been, had her for that long. So like even then, like when you become affectionate for an object, we instinctively gender objects, and like I can't get that out of my head. Calling Tank an it feels wrong to me. But like if I were to call Tank a they, that would be personified. Again, we have this issue of it. Yeah, it does depersonalize a being, but they does not.
Yeah.
And some folks even identify with its pronouns. Like there's at least one creator I can think of that goes by Doe on Twitch that uses its pronouns because that gives them gender euphoria. So
JACandQuill says you feed them and they don't bite you. If that's not love, I don't know what is. Lilith.
One of them does.
Well, one does. Lilith still hasn't quite figured out that bit yet, and I don't think she ever will. Yeah, like come on, who here hasn't grieved over the loss of something physical, like a physical, like a toy or a bowl that they broke that had meant something to them. Yeah, you can love a thing that's inanimate. Hang on, I need to do some craft.
People get very, very fond of their things, and especially things that have faces or things that have extreme like emotional weight. Yeah, like people tend to instinctively gender those things, but if I were to call Tank a they, that would not depersonalize her in the same way that calling like them an it would, right? So, all right, let's get to the next section of this this video while Mero does crafty things.
All right, if I can't think of anything, this is just my loading screen.
We have props, everybody. It's a real show.
Aside from the language issue, the Bible depicts God in masculine terms because, 1, the Hebrew Bible's primary concern is making a good world. 2, a good world can only be achieved by making good people. And 3, the people who commit nearly all the world's violence are males.
Okay, the last fact is true, but I'm a little dubious on the first two.
Yeah, so can you go back and see what his thing was saying? So, I'm making a good world. So, okay.
Like that's all. This is all 3 of them on screen right now. I paused it before it swept off.
Okay, so I meant like go back to when he goes, the Bible depicts God in masculine terms right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so because he said, got it right to basically.
Here's the answer. Because the Bible is preoccupied with making a kinder, less violent, more just world.
So just before he made those points, those 3 points, go.
Many
that
people
way,
make
that
against
way,
the Bible
that way.
is that it depicts God.
No. Forward.
One of the
forward.
criticisms many
Okay, where are you asking me to go?
Okay, keep going to the right. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Bit more. Bit more. Bit more. There. There. Okay. Hebrew primary concern is making a good world. Yes, a
is
Bible
making
that
a good work.
a Bible that tells you how to correctly punish a sexual abuse survivors. Yeah. So how do you correctly punish a person who has been sexually abused? Yes, that's clearly a good world. That or how to treat your slaves. Yeah.
We
Super
got
good world.
a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Lady Alessio. I'm glad you're doing this
Thank
chat.
you.
What's happening in Ukraine is important. Support from Eresion Ikateria. Thank you so much. I actually ended up looking up your guys' organization earlier, and I noticed that you all are anti-Folkus, so it'll be really interesting to see like how that evolves. Thank you so much for the donation.
Okay, so the next one, can we go and do the next one unless you want to talk about
2, a good world can only be achieved by making good people.
Stop. Yeah, okay. So, good world can only be achieved by making good people. Okay.
So this is, I've got an issue here, and I need to say this on psychological terms because, that was my minor when I was in college, whether I finished my degree or not. And I do know a few things about a few things in psychology. Not an expert by any means. Shannon Q probably knows way more than I ever will. But last I checked, that's essentializing the nature of a person to their actions. Right? Like, that is saying that you have to produce good people, but like that assumes that somebody is inherently good or bad. Like, there's not an in between. You can be be a good person who makes a mistake or does a bad thing. Like, that's a possible, there's a possibility. You can do a bad thing while thinking you're doing a good thing because you don't actually have the information you need to figure out that you're doing a bad thing. You can do a good thing that causes bad outcomes. Like, you can do a thing that looks objectively good on the outside, but actually causes terrible things, like, with all of the best motivations in the world. Like, this idea of oversimplifying to a good world makes good people, like, does not compute with what we know about psychology.
Yeah. So perfect example. I felt I'm really, really screwed up by this actually. I had a moth infestation, so I put some sticky trap for moths in my cupboard to get rid of the moth infestation. It was going really horrible, and then I checked on the moth trap the other day, and a gecko had got caught in the trap, and it died, and I can still see its eyes staring at me, glaring like "you killed me" kind of thing. And it really quite traumatized me, to be honest with you. I had like nightmares about it because I felt so bad. It was also a gecko that is an invasive species in Australia. So there was that little thing, but this poor animal died a horrendous death, and I didn't mean for it to die because of my actions, or because I wanted to control a moth infestation. So,
I mean, there's also the example of folks who put out rat bait. Rat bait does horrible, horrible things to rats, but rats also do horrible, horrible things to houses. So there's this horrendous sort of background. But if a bird of prey eats a rat that has consumed rat bait, the current rat bait is no longer arsenic-based primarily. It actually is a horrible compound, which I'm going to trigger warning really fast for those of you who really love animals. What you're about to hear is probably going to squick you out. So mute the stream for a sec if you need to. This is your warning. It'll take me about 2 minutes to explain this. But one of the things that modern rat bait does is it thins a rat's blood so much that their blood will come hemorrhaging out of their stomach and eyes, and they'll die a horrible death from their blood being so thin that it just goes through their pores, effectively. it basically destroys their clotting factor completely. So even the slightest injury will kill them. And it does this very slowly. It has to be metabolized by them. So if a like raptor of some kind, if a bird of prey eats one of those rats, the same thing will happen to them. And they'll die from the poison. Which is why in a lot of areas in my state, it is actually illegal to use that kind of rat bait because it can kill raptors. Warfarin, yep.
Yeah. Was it the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions?
Yeah, so like you might even feel like you're doing a service for even your neighbors because you've got like these like rat bait and they're taking them back to their nest, and it's, you know, like the rats are doing horrible things, which, you know, I keep pet rats, so like it breaks my heart to know that. It breaks my heart to think that that's happening to wild rats. Wild rats and pet rats act very differently, but rats are some of the most empathetic, kind creatures you will ever interact with. I've taught Marrow a ton about rats over the last few years. They have been shown, even in scientific studies, they will refuse to eat if a rat that they can see that is from their mischief is not receiving food. They will refuse food out of the unfairness. They will try to give parts of their food to other rats. Like, they are like little dogs when you take care of them. And so when you think about that and you think about this incredibly empathetic pack creature that is very similar to us, that they even communicate with sound similarly to the way we do. We can't hear most of the sounds they make, but they do. They communicate primarily in hypersonic like sounds. Like, they're talking to each other all the time and we just can't hear it. Right? Like, they are some of the most intelligent stuff, like animals that exist. We have a $5 super chat from Logan McCurder. Thank you so much. Norse Heathen here. I'm super poor at the moment, but I wanted to help. May all gods known and unknown watch over Ukraine. Thank you so much, Logan. So let's see. I believe we're at $30 out of the super chat donations. So thank you guys so much for that. Again, I still recommend the links are being posted periodically in the live chat. If you decide to donate directly to one of the charities, hop into the Discord server with the link in the description, post it in the ticketing section. All you have to do is click the emote on the ticket to be able to post a screen cap of the donation. If 50 to every $50 that gets donated, Marrow has to do 10 jumping jacks. So like, and if we get to 500, which we are currently at 230 raised during the stream, if we get to 500, Marrow will post a video of 2 frozen rats that are named Vladimir and Putin. Mice. 2 frozen mice that are named Vladimir and Putin, like, that will be consumed by her snakes to her channel.
Yes.
So we are working toward that goal right now.
We're almost halfway there. Also, please send some more money. I am starting to fall asleep. I need to do some more star jumps.
Yeah, please donate directly to the charities if you can. Links to all 3 are in the description. They're also getting posted in the live chat periodically as well by Marrow. Thank you so much, Marrow, for doing that. So we recommend, because YouTube takes 1/3 of every super chat, we recommend that if you're going to be donating over $10, you can get a message read. Please donate directly to the charities because of the fact that YouTube won't take a cut at that point. So... All right, okay. So we're moving on to the next point. So making good people. Again, this essentializes what good is. Like, I've done entire live streams philosophically on virtue ethics and how alternate ideas of good don't come down to like essentialism. So that already rubs me the wrong way as a, Hellenist and a Stoic. But even on top of it, just to make a good world, you need to make good people. Good people do bad things sometimes. Good people do misinformed things. Good people make mistakes. Like, if you are just magically not a good person anymore the second you make a mistake, well, that's why a lot of us came out of Christianity traumatized, right? Like, most of the people in the chat right now came out of Christianity to wherever you are, whether you're an atheist ally, whether you're a pagan, whether you are like a different sort of monotheist, whether you're a Christo-pagan, like wherever the hell you sit in the chat. If you're a Christian in the chat and you're an ally, well, welcome. I'm surprised that you're here, but I'm excited to have you. Like, this idea of your goodness license, your goodness tag gets revoked the second you screw up is part of the reason why a lot of us got so traumatized we ended up leaving that tradition. Like, a lot of us ended up in all kinds of mental and emotional problems. A lot of us end up struggling with identity because of this idea. The phrase, one aw shit neuters 1,000 good boys. Like, what? the entire history
Yeah.
of all the good you've ever done just goes away the moment you make a mistake. That kind of purity culture just destroys emotions. Like, humans don't work that way. Humans grow, humans change.
And also, I just want to point out that PragerU 100% thinks he's a good person.
Rowena, these are already dead mice that will be feeding, that will be fed to the
Yeah.
snake. So these mice are not live feeding. Marrow does not do that.
Oh,
it puts the snakes
no,
in
that
danger,
is-
and it's cruel to mice.
It is incredibly cruel. I consider live feeding, if you don't have to be an act of animal cruelty. So I will not ever do that. That's just not okay. But just pointing this out, Dennis Prager most likely thinks that he's a good person. Now, let me remind you of some of the things he thinks are bad. Feeding the poor, abortion. He also thinks abolishing the death penalty is a bad idea. What else does he? He also thinks making the super wealthy pay taxes is a bad
Gender-affirming
idea.
care for trans people
is a bad idea. He also thinks, what else does he also think? He also thinks trying to mitigate climate change is an evil idea. So I don't know about you, but I think he's an evil piece of shit. So good is subjective as well, because he wants to keep the status quo. Of course he is, because he's being funded by the Koch brother. I'm so glad I can say that. I'm sorry. He and everyone who works in at PragerU are reprehensible people, and the people who write these scripts, reprehensible people. Yeah. So just wanted to point that out, that if we were to go by his definition of good, the world would be a significantly worse place. And I'm not saying that because of my, that I disagree with everything he says. No, objectively, if we did what he says, the world would be a worse place.
Okay, so Lady Alessiel says, a small amount, I'm sorry, but yes, they are frozen. Hey, you don't need to be sorry. Like, we pop up folks that post things that aren't just super chats. Thank you so much for the $2. Like I said, all of the donations, if you guys do decide to super chat instead of donating directly, all of what Google lets us keep is going straight to Ukraine. As soon as I get paid next month, I will post the receipt for the donation.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to the next point.
And 3, the people who commit nearly all the world's violence are males.
That's technically true.
It's technically true, yes. Also, how does that how does it show that the world is good, like God is good? I don't know. I find this last point really kind of contradictory, like goes against their arguments, and I don't know how to explain it. So Ali is a knows Meredith Ease, so here I am buffering.
Yeah, so the only place that I think they could be going, because this is well past where I've actually seen so far, so we are in fresh territory. We're both live reacting. I'm gonna preempt this a little bit and think, well, maybe they're saying that God's supposed to be setting an example to men, but if that's the case, then there's a lot of shit in the Old Testament and even kind of in the New Testament a little bit that contradicts that point. So we'll see. Gargamel Gold says, Aliakai, you should watch Midnight Mass on Netflix and do one of your film crusades on it. Trigger warning, because it's a supernatural horror drama. I haven't seen any pagan reactions to it. I might look into it. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat.
I saw that with what's his name? I can't remember. Anyway, I saw the genetically modified skeptic and V. I think that's how you pronounce their name. I can always forget how. I call them six. And the reason why, because their name is spelled VI, which is 6 in Roman numerals. Anyway, I saw them do a response to that about how it exemplifies religious extremism really, really well. And I'm like, oh, I really have to watch this. I know what happens in the end, but I really, really want to watch it because it was a really good breakdown. So if you haven't seen GM Skeptic's response to that with V, I suggest you should go.
All right, you ready to move on from this point? We've been on these 3 points. Like, let's see where they go from here.
Oh God.
Therefore, it is in both men's and women's interests to depict God in the masculine. Here's why. Without a father or some other male rule giver, young men are likely to do great harm.
Source? Can I get a source on this? Oh God, we broke Marrow. Like, okay, so I'm source. What I feel like I need to like Google if there's an actual source on this. Like, I know that broken homes generally do have a tendency to lead to greater outcomes of incarceration and such, but a lot of that has to do with poverty rather than the presence of a male in the household. For example, what about kids that like lesbian couples, either one of them gives birth to or like they adopt? I've never seen a study that says that, like, without a male rule giver, a son of a lesbian couple is going to move on to be more of a dick. Like, if anything, PragerU tends to argue against the gays TM being able to adopt, even to two male lawgivers, even. Like, let's talk about a gay couple, because without a male and a female in the household, then, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, bad things happen. So I'm just sitting here going, okay, but isn't that an argument for gay couples to be able to adopt rather than like an argument against, like, that doesn't seem like an argument for God to be depicted as male despite being admittedly agender according to PragerU. Like, what?
There is studies to show that there are some males that can that can become more violent, but they are in elephants.
When I said broken homes, what I meant was I guess that's kind of how it was referred to growing up. But yeah, like single parent households, because single parent households can include like single fathers as well as single mothers. Like, we know that typically like mothers are given custody more often than fathers are, but sometimes it actually is in the best interest for the kid for the father to have custody. And like, I've seen that in several cases. One of my friends actually got taken away from their mom because their mom was a drug user and their father was not. And so they ended up growing up with their father and they were much better off for it.
Yeah. So there is a study showing that in elephant herds, because of the male elephants being murdered, in my opinion, if you kill an elephant, that's a murder.
Oh yeah, Ozymandias, I completely agree with you here. Like, a lot of like African American households, because of police violence and the assumption of guilt on the part of African American people, which are convicted falsely at a rate almost 3 times that of like white people, for lack of a better way to put it. Sorry if you all don't like the word white, if there's anybody in my audience who doesn't like it, but like African American folks, it has been consistently shown that they are convicted at much higher rates falsely than white people, and they're often given much longer sentences even when they did commit crime. But also, there's been a ton of studies that have shown sociologically that crime is often a result of poverty and lack of opportunity rather than anything inherent on the part of a household. So you get this sort of triple threat for African American folks where they are presumed guilty upon entering the court, whether they are or not. You know, the dad ends up, more often than not, the women also get incarcerated. African American women also get incarcerated at much higher rates. They're presumed guilty when they get there. They're presumed guilty when they're spotted by the cops. And then, like, dad gets taken out of the household. So now you have poverty. Mom is struggling to support kids by herself. So what happens? Well, the kids have to try to help in some way. And then we're back to, well, what opportunities do the kids have? Their dad's in jail, blah, blah, blah. So, like, it's pretty obvious that that is a racist dog whistle. It frequently is on the part of PragerU. They bring up I'm trying to remember what the actual percentages are, but I think it's 80-20, like 80% of the crimes are committed to
1340.
1340, yeah.
Yeah.
But like they bring that up. But like over policing in black neighborhoods is a big problem. So again, when you're talking about like homes without a dad, like, there's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes it's better for dad to be not there. Sometimes it's better for mom to be not there. Like, sometimes in some cases, there are women who are violent. There are women who are abusive. There are women who should not be around children. Like, there's an assumption that women are always innocent. That is not true. I have known people who have gone through domestic violence via their female partners and had a much, much, much harder time getting any sort of help from the cops because they were basically laughed off. I've known trigger warning really quick CSA victims that were men that got laughed off and could not get help. So like when you're talking about this sort of, there's so much assumption going on here. It hurts me to try to even just break down. We're pausing for like 10 minutes of exposition for every like 10 seconds because there's so much nuance that's being missed here.
Yeah, and that's the thing with PragerU. That's actually their
1350. Thank you.
Yeah, that's their thing. Like, they're so easily consumed. They are entertaining to watch. Like, let's take away our biases and everything. They're really good to watch. They're fast, they're quick, they're interesting, they're visually interesting, they're presented well. They're very well presented. And that's what sucks people in. So people who there are people like, I wouldn't be surprised if PragerU is maybe, if not the first step, but maybe the second or third step to radicalization to the alt-right, because they're easily consumed. And then who wants to watch a half an hour video debunking everything that PragerU says? I think it kind of reminds me of a video I did where the question for atheists, and in that video I made the point of these question for atheists. These videos take 6 minutes to watch, but it takes 45 minutes to debunk. Who's going to watch the 45-minute to an hour long videos to debunk?
Well, and then on top of it, let's look at the signals that they're giving off here. Like, they've got, without a male rule giver, likely to do great harm. You've got this very clear, like, that looks like some curly hair right there. Like, is anybody else getting, like, some kind of signal off of that? And then we've got the cap backwards. Yeah, the cap off to the side. Like, are we not getting some, like, hood vibes off of that? Like, there's some clear racial coding going on here. Like, you can say, oh, no, you're just seeing shit. I can guarantee you there's some racial coding going on here because this is Prager fucking you. But, like, also, I'm not liable to give them the benefit of the doubt when you have two different images here that, like, it's pretty clear where those silhouettes come from.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, if there were little bubbles on top of the person's head to signify, like, the cornrows that, then, that could also be an argument you could make.
All right, so let's see where they go from here.
If there is no male authority figure to give a growing boy rules, it is very difficult for him to control his wilder impulses.
What?
Sorry if I broke someone's ears just then. Sorry.
So are we just assuming that all young men have ADHD now or something? Like all AMAB people? Because let's face it, like not everybody who grows up being identified as a man is going to feel that way. Like, not everybody's going to identify with the label that they're assigned at birth, right? Like, are we assuming that all AMAB people just automatically have ADHD? Because, like, rules doesn't fix that either.
Yeah, also, does that mean that every single woman with ADHD is also now a man? Because I'm a man now, apparently.
Yeah, same. Like, and again, it wasn't the male lawgiver in my house that helped me. It was my fucking mom.
Gaius says, is it Gaius or Gaius?
Gaius.
Guys.
I completely agree with this sentiment, Storm.
Yeah, agreed. But guys, this is the boys will be boys trope. Oh God.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It is offensive. Like, for people who identify as men, I'm sorry. I'm sorry on behalf that you just had to listen to that. Like, I am actually sorry. Because I know you're better than that. And I think
there's misandry
too.
Like, there's so much misandry. Like, misandry and misogyny are fucking hand in hand. Because whenever you say something misogynistic, you also, the flip side is that you say something misandric. So yeah. So basically,
I mean, it doesn't even just devalue men. It like this literally sets up the expectation that men are gonna do bad shit. Like it literally sets up the expectation. It sets up a carrot and stick approach, which does not work, by the way. Carrots work, sticks do not. Like this is psychological studies have been done on this. Rewards work, punishments don't. What? And
If
again,
we
we have
add-
another very racially coded looking image here, don't we? We've got
Yep.
the curly hair right there too.
Mm-hmm. How about if we raise another $500? I'll next 3 weeks from now, I will feed them Dennis and Prager.
We are at 240 at present. Like
Yeah.
4 folks that have donated both in the tickets and on the stream itself. We are at 240. That brings us up to 840 total from counting the over
Nice.
600 that we received from the 5 servers that participated. Which reminds me,
Yep.
I've got a few more messages that I need to read out since I promised I'd go through all of these throughout the stream, and I am indeed a NB of my word. So we
Okay.
have one from Base of the Chessboard Nerds system saying sending love and strength to the people of Ukraine. We also have Chameleon who says give even if you only have a little. And Florence says, we love you, people of Ukraine. I hope everything will be okay for you soon. So I think with that, I've caught up to all of the messages that I've got. So with that, if you all donate, like over the course of the stream, those are the only messages we'll be reading out from here on out because I think I've caught up to all of the donators.
Also, don't forget to donate. I think I'm at 300 when I have to do another 10 star jumps, and I am falling asleep. So everyone, could you please, for my own awakeness, donate, because I need to do some star jumps.
Yeah, absolutely. Uwu.zip actually has a really good point here. If you reinforce the idea of evil being innate to human nature, it's easier to convince people to follow BS authoritarian laws and religions that will curb this quote-unquote wild nature. Yeah, if you can convince people that they are inherently bad, you can guilt them into doing whatever you say is good. And that's screwed up. I mean, this is part of why I'm a virtue ethicist, because virtue ethics like recognizes that virtuous behavior is on a situation by situation and person by person basis. Like it's not a specific thing every single time. You absolutely can. Mero will get up and go make tea if somebody asks her to during a donation. All right, so let's get off this horrible quote here and see where we go.
As President Barack Obama told an audience in 2008, children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime. 9.
Okay, but the and commit crime is because of the poverty. Because we don't have good freaking systems in this, like in the US to support people. What? We don't have social safety nets that actually work, y'all. Like we don't. Like the federal poverty line hasn't been readjusted in like 30 years.
Yeah, there's a reason why that places like Sweden and like the Scandinavian countries tend to have lower crime statistics. Actually, I'm going to have to double check that. Crime stats, Scandinavian countries versus US.
All right, let's play the next little section of this because we're apparently finishing the quote from Obama. But I was right about the racial signifiers. See, y'all, I was not crazy there.
9 times more likely to drop out of school and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. Commenting.
Gee, I wonder why that is. We literally went over why that is, though. Poverty is the risk for these things because we do not have robust social safety nets, and there are not a lot of opportunities for folks. Like the number one determiner of your socioeconomic status when you die is where you're born.
Okay, so I sent you a link in the private chat on StreamYard. The Sweden versus United States crime stats, and that's interesting. Okay, so there's something like the sexual assault rate is 2 times
Okay,
more
guys,
than the
trigger warning. We're about to start talking about some violent crimes. So SA, other things. The terms are going to be mentioned. We won't get too deep into the details. But if terms trigger you, you might want to step out for a sec.
Yeah. So so there's some that have come up. Most of them are on the US saying 20, like it's more X amount more than Sweden or blah blah blah. Interesting, like the violent SA rate is two
Age
times
of
more than
criminal
the
responsibility in the United States is 6 years old.
yeah. But it was the violent SA is twice more than the US, and so people are going to look at that and just go, "Hey, well, therefore, there's more SA in Sweden." But the thing is, that Sweden has a much more sympathetic reporting on SA than the US. So
Also, for
even
total
though,
crimes, 10 times more than Sweden.
yeah, 10 times more than Sweden. Per thousand in Sweden, it's 3 times more than the US. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, it's one of those things where people are going to point, oh, there's more crimes in Sweden, but it's like, is it more crimes or do you have a better justice system?
Or do you have a higher conviction rate when it comes to things like nonviolent offenders? Like, for example, Sweden's far better known to go after financial crimes than the United States. So if you're talking about total crime, like even things like blue-collar crimes, which are notoriously, or white-collar crimes, which are notoriously underreported in the United States, like it took a war with Ukraine for us to actually like think about maybe going after Russian oligarchs for embezzlement, right? Even though everybody's known that they've been doing it for, how long?
Yeah. So it's fascinating to read these things because so hang on, I'm just having a look into the second page.
Violent crime, though, notice violent crime, we have 3 times more than in Sweden. So when you're looking at the total crime, that's white collar crime that we're talking about, non-violent crime that's being prosecuted better in Sweden than here.
Yeah.
Violent crime, 0.86 versus 4.7 per capita.
Yeah.
5 times more than Sweden. Murder rate, 12,996, 143 times more than Sweden. Violent crime murder rate per million people, 4 times more than Sweden.
Yeah. Burglaries, 53% more than the US and Sweden. But I think that's because, again, maybe Sweden has better reporting and rates than the US, because I do know that if you get burgled in the US, there's no point in ringing the cops because they won't do anything. Fear of crime, of violent hate crime, it's 7% more than the US. But then again, all you have to do is look at the BLM and say, hey, if somebody the reporting upon and convictions of particular crimes leads into this, because a lot of people will point at Saudi Arabia and say, religion will stop men from doing violent SA on women, and it's like, well, no, the violent SA on women is probably extremely high, but it is illegal for women to have sex outside of marriage. So if you're going to be sent to prison for being a victim of a crime, are you going to report that crime? The answer is no. So when somebody in Sweden knows that if they report a violent hate crime, or if they report they're afraid of being a part of violent hate crime, you've got to look at confounding variables. So so like fear of crime, feels safe walking alone at night, ranked 34th, 39% more than the US. So they feel safe walking alone at night. 2.4 of murder per 100,000 people of murders in Sweden versus 5.9 in the US, which is 2 times more. Murders with firearms, 58. It is 162 times more than Sweden for firearms. So you got to, you just, when it comes to things like reporting and stuff, you've got to take these things into account. But as oh, here we go. Drugs, lifetime cannabis use, 12%, ranked first. It's because cannabis is legal, or basically legal over there. It is in Amsterdam.
We've got a interesting point here too. Purity culture has a factor in not reporting, even if it's not illegal to have, consensual relations before marriage.
Yeah, this is a very fascinating.
Because if you're talking about non-consent, there's a shame involved in it, especially because there's a saying. Trigger warning for SA again, really quick. There's a saying in a lot of US circles that the victim gets put on trial in SA courts long before the perpetrator does. There is a tendency to question what people were wearing. There's a tendency to question if the victim is a man or identifies as a man. There's a tendency to question, well, did you enjoy it? Was it actually that? There's a question, did you, for either of the two sort of most common genders, there's this question of, did you invite it in some way? Did you imply, did you consent and then withdraw? There's an assumption that people who report must have decided later that it was not consensual. There's also a fear of, especially for people who identify as women, and this very much, a lot of people think that this only applies to cis women, but it very much applies to trans women as well. Trans women are women, and they suffer all of the same violence and hate that cis women do, plus more for being trans, especially if they are still, in the midst of their transition. There is this assumption that if I say no, I could get hurt anyway. There could be a violent sort of outcome. And so a lot of unwanted physical contact can happen, not because consent is given, but because of fear of saying no could lead to something so much worse, because so many women, trans and cis, but especially trans, when you talk about percentages of the population, are killed for saying no or brutally hurt for saying no. It is something that needs to be acknowledged, that a lot of the time women are extremely conflict averse.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah. There's a stat that I just found. I'm reading through this. So remember how I was saying earlier that it on the surface it looks that Sweden is worse off for property crimes and robbery compared to US. Property crime victims, 8.4% ranked 10th in Sweden versus 10% ranked 7th. So it's 19% more than Sweden. So even though on the surface property crime is higher in Sweden, the percentage of people who are victims is lower than that of the US. And I think it's because they've got a better reporting system. And so fear of crimes, worried about home break and enter, is ranked 64th compared to US is 69th, 39th, which is 34% more than Sweden. So it is looking like Sweden, comparing it to the US, is significantly better, and that's because
it's also important to consider where the property crime occurs. A lot of a larger percentage of property crime in the US is against individual apartments, homeowners, vehicles, etc., as opposed to businesses, whereas in Sweden, from the statistics I was reading earlier, it looks like the majority of property theft is against businesses. So somebody's more likely to steal from a Walmart in Sweden, whereas they're more likely to break into your house in the US.
So I don't know what put me on that tangent, but Yes.
We were talking about, like, homes that are missing a father figure and the assumption that a rules-based guardian of some kind. I don't know about y'all, but like, my incredibly strict abusive father figure just made me more of a dick. I was a total asshole when I was a teenager. I will fully admit that I was a POS as a teen. I think some of us were. Like, I was especially bad. I grew up a lot when I moved out. And part of that was because I was away from the abuse that was justifying a lot of it. But like, the excessive levels of rules that were imposed on me just taught me how to get around them better. Like, I was never told why. I was always just told, do as I say. And all that did was make me want to get around them better.
Yep.
All right,
Alrighty.
so let's get on to the next point.
So, dead sort of tech gremlins has attacked. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. It didn't actually put it back.
No.
All right, let's try that again, but this time with excitement. This time with feeling.
Yay! Yay! Let's do this.
This is another reminder that this is indeed a charity scream. So if you guys wanted to take that moment to go and say drop a donation to one of those charities and drop us a ticket in the Discord so we could see it, that would be amazing. All right, so the person that he is claiming here, Dr. Alvin Poussaint, since we are on a quick break, let's see who the hell this person is.
I have added the links in the description. I mean,
so apparently he's a psychiatrist known for his research on the effects of racism in the African American community.
Ooh, oh, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, because like Black power, a failure for integration within the civil rights movement, distresses of the white female worker and the civil rights movement in the South. That's it. That's interesting. Apparently, he was born in 1934, according to Wikipedia. Because Wikipedia is a great sort of resource for a quick overview on somebody if you're trying to figure out who they are. Went to Tufts, interestingly, Tufts Medical. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was a person whose primary research in psychology was on race relations. So it says, according to Wikipedia, much of his works deconstructs theories on race models by white psychologists previously in the field. Through his research, he addresses blatant and subtle forms of racism. This is why Poussaint insists that blacks instill self-esteem and black pride into children growing up in his society.
Okay.
So his book, Why Blacks Kill Blacks, says it turns the theory of racial self-hatred on its head. He develops his aggression rage theory to show that the psychological issues may plague Black Americans. In his book, he states the theory of racial self-hatred allows whites to feel that blacks are psychologically deranged while whites are posing as models of mental health. In fact, it must be whites who are insecure and filled with self-hatred because they are the ones who need to oppress blacks in order to cope with life. That's spicy. I mean, it's not wrong, but it's spicy.
Would you say it's jalapeno or is edging towards the ghost peppers?
I mean, for me, it's a jalapeno, but that's because I've actually read some of these theories. Like, for somebody who's new to all this stuff, it might be a ghost pepper.
That's true. That's true.
Another interest of Poussaint is media consulting. He wants to use media to construct a positive role models for children.
That's a good idea. Yes, but I would guarantee you that Dennis would have a problem with that because of the woke left.
So, yeah, apparently this person isn't just studying, like, quote-unquote single-family homes. This guy is actually studying specifically, like, what drives African-American crime rates and like other race relation type stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of curious where that quote came from. Maro, you want to Google that while we listen to the next little bit?
Okay. What was the because
It'll
it says
it'll play in just a sec because I'm gonna replay it for
Okay.
the chat because it just dropped off the map for some reason a second ago. All right, so let's try it again.
Cool.
Confirmed these statistics. The absence of fathers corresponds with a host of social ills, including dropping out of school and serving time in jail. In other words,
absence of fathers. Continue.
In other words, ones including dropping out of school and serving time in jail.
Corresponds with Jay Schwartz.
Have a good night, Storm.
You too. Yep. Have fun. Well, I've got something from Focus on the Family. That's always a good one.
Oh God, Focus on the Family. All right.
With a host. That's not how you spell host. Host of don't I need another screen? Host of social ills. All right. Okay. In quotation marks. I know, it's so much fun. Why has got a he?
Children Elizabeth Tunn.
Oh, you've got a PolitiFact one. Okay, let's have a look at the PolitiFact fact checks.
Yeah, PolitiFact. It's the Barack Obama.
All right, and all right, I put it in the StreamYard chat.
Come on, people on the path from victims to victors, says Obama's views rings truth. The absence of fathers corresponds. There's where they got that quote from, was from PolitiFact. He said other factors, here's the rest they left out. Other factors such as poverty, education level, and the age of parents also correspond with single motherhood and adolescent problems. I feel he was correct in calling attention to the fact that fathers' involvements in children's lives is very important for their well-being and their healthy growth, and studies show that. Rebecca Blank, a visiting fellow at the Brookings Institution whose studies on social and economic policy, wrote in an email that it's difficult to pinpoint the exact causes of the social problems Obama mentions because they are so interrelated.
Yep. Don't you just love it when they take like really quite reasonable shit out of context and then go, and that is my expression. That's how my brain functions whenever I have to watch a PragerU video.
Have a good night, Gargamel.
You too, mate. Have a good one.
We got another ticket.
Ooh, does that mean I have to do star jumps?
Yeah. So a single extremely generous person has brought us up to the $500 mark all by themselves from the $250 where we were. So you, my good ma'am, you get to do 50. We just got a $250 donation.
Yes. All right. So, Allie, I'll count. You say shit. All right. 1.
All right. So while she's counting, the answer to that apparently is that it's a lot more complicated than that. Now, it is true that growing up in a single parent household, even when controlled for like economic factors and stuff, does seem to cause problems. But part of that might also be for the same reasons that growing up as a so-called latchkey kid causes problems. The lack of additional parental attention, not on the part of the mother, mind you, because again, this happens in single family households where the kids are given to the father as well. It might also just be that the kids don't receive as much individual attention because, for example, parents can't work separate shifts so that somebody's like able to pick them up from school or things like that. Did you get to 50?
Yes, I did. Now I have to pee. I'll be back in a bit.
All right. So we've got to wait to watch a little bit more. So chat, how are y'all doing tonight? There's 45 of you left. Marrow is answering the call to nature, but because of one particularly generous benefactor, we have now hit a total of 500 donated on the stream, which means we have hit 1,100 donated total, which is freaking incredible. Like, for a community of less than 2,000 people, like between the 5 Discord servers and the 50 or so people that are here on this stream, it blows my mind that y'all have managed to actually like raise that much money between you. I am so freaking proud of this community. Like, I am so proud of all of you. Thank you all so much. Yeah, my husband was a latchkey kid also, guys.
Hello. Thank you for that. Feel good.
I have no idea if that study's been done, but I'm sure that Marrow could find out at some point. Like, that sounds like a Marrow video if ever there was one.
Number of children in households, a problem of... I do know that
I know that there are some interesting psychological effects to being an only child, but I don't know if they've ever done studies on like what big families do, apart from the fact that, interestingly, the more children a woman has over the course of her lifetime, the more likely that her youngest children are going to be gay for some reason, and we don't really know what causes that. Like, that has been shown, and nobody has any idea why.
I do also know that larger kids that have older siblings tend to have better education, because the older siblings help out with their younger siblings. So, for example, is like if
that actually
the
that
8-year-old
is known by a really nasty name. It's sometimes they call it parentification. However, if the parent also leans on the older kids as an emotional support, like they would a spouse, it's sometimes called emotional incest, which is a horrendous term, but it's somewhat accurate for the emotional experience of sort of being leaned on, like a parent would lean on a spouse emotionally. That's not physical anything, but like emotionally, that's kind of messed up. But parentification is a real thing, and parentification is actually far more likely to happen, especially to Black women. Like, there are some amazing Black creators out there that have done videos on this. I can actually try to go through my YouTube really quick to find one of them. But Khadija Mbawe is one of them, I believe, that I have seen. And I think she might have been the one who did the video that I saw on parentification and Black women. I can look it up really quick, but like, that's a very well-known thing, is parentification. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Because there is this assumption that African American women either like they feel less pain. There's an assumption, like, there's just a stripping of humanity of African American women, especially, like this assumption that they can just deal more than women of other skin tones. Like, melanin apparently makes you more emotionally resilient, or so the idea goes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was sarcasm for those of you who don't speak Marrow.
Yeah, sorry, that was definitely sarcasm there.
Yeah, I've been talking to Marrow every day for almost 2 years, so like, that was sarcasm for those of you who don't speak Marrow. All right, let's see where this goes.
Marrow, so.
All right, let's see where this goes.
In other words, if one's primary goal is a good world, specifically a world with far less murder, child abuse, theft, and rape, a God depicted in masculine terms, a father in heaven, not a goddess, a mother in heaven, must be the source of moral commands, such as do not murder.
Wait, but none of the statistics, it's not just the statistics, like, it's not just, like, they said single parent households. That's not just households without fathers. That's like, that can be households without mothers too. Single parent homes contribute to those things for a whole host of reasons that especially like emphasize socioeconomic status.
But God is a singular parent. Sorry if I just murdered your earbuds talking about murder. But God is a singular parent. He's talking about, you have father in heaven, but not mother, but the father.
I'm going to echo Princely Puck's recommendation here. FD Signifier does make amazing videos. So does Foreign Man in a Foreign Land. I really love his work too. But there's also at least 2 or 3 different African American women creators that I'm major fans of. Khadijah's one of them. So, like, yeah, that... Ikeda's bringing up a good point. Is he saying that it would be better to have Ares in charge than Athena? Well, you see, in ancient Greece, like, there was a balance between the two, but Athena was the stronger one. Like, she's the one who could bring an end to the wars. Like, she was the one who has the ear of her father Zeus. In fact, so much so that Ares actually accuses Zeus at one point of favoring her because he, quote, gave birth to her alone. There's a whole bunch of screwed up stuff with like mythology. If y'all haven't seen my video on Ares, by the way, he's not evil. Please check it out. I worked my ass off on it. I expected it to be easier than what I would have done that last week because of the Encanto video getting put off. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I was beyond wrong. The amount of research I had to do for that thing in the like half the time I normally would, that was not fun. But it came out amazing, and I'm really, really proud of that video. Please check it out after the live stream if you haven't seen it yet, because it's amazing. Yeah, but as Serpent Rose said, the general commands the soldiers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love J. Bagley says, I love the smell of misogyny in the afternoon. Yeah, I don't know if any of y'all have ever had like either a helicopter mom or like boss mom, but like y'all, it ain't like nobody was like my stepdad was awful in so many different ways, but like I don't know if any of y'all grew up in a household, because one of my friends, like growing up, it wasn't about her when her dad was mad. It was, you could feel when her mom walked into the room with the slightest bit of irritation. Like, if y'all have seen Encanto, you know, like how freaking what's her name? I'm trying to remember the actual name of the woman. It was her aunt, the main character's aunt. When she walked into the room, the literal like weather changed. Like, it was like that, but a physical, like you could see the lights dim when this woman walked in the room with the slightest bit of fucking irritation. It wasn't Abuela. Yeah. It was different character.
Hang on. I'll find out. Encanto IMDb. It was
Pepa.
Really hard.
Alan Natherson got it right. Pepa. When Pepa walks into the room, like the literal weather changes. Like her mom was like that. Like, you didn't piss her mom off. That is who you went to get away with shit.
Yeah.
Now, my house wasn't like that. Yeah, Misty says that's my mom as well. Dad ruled with fear, but my mom ruled with an iron fist. And yeah, like my mom, I'm not going to air too much dirty laundry, but I'll just say my mom and I still don't have the best relationship because of the way that she operates as an individual human. My stepdad was worse by far. But that's not saying much. That is a bar that is underground. And Nervardia can attest to this, because, like, for everything that my servers ever heard about between my and my mom, like, Mara's heard 3 times as much, because, like, she's the one I'm usually talking to when my mom pulls her bullshit. Yeah. I love my mom dearly. I'm trying to build a relationship with her. It's difficult sometimes. It really is. You know, can I get an F in the chat for everybody who's ever had to deal with family? Like, press F to pay respects for people trying to build relationships with unhealthy family members. Sometimes kids are more mature than their parents, and it can be frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you want to go back a little bit where he says that being a man makes you less likely to murder and steal, even though
no, that's not what he. Well, he's saying he's saying that a heavenly father figure will result in that kind of world, because fathers apparently like instill rules, which makes like male kids less likely to do crime. That's where that logic apparently comes from, which is what I predicted at the beginning of the stream, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes no sense. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there. I know. Hot take. Ghost pepper levels of hot. I need to make some tea according to our Okay,
so here's an interesting thing. So Gaius just sent me an abstract. Hey, look, it's one of your favorite things. This is from the journal Perspectives in Public Health, it looks like. From the Royal Society for Public Health. And it is a paper that states from 1996, Children who are regularly left without adult supervision during a significant portion of the day, referred to as latchkey children, are a growing social phenomenon. The main reason for the rising prevalence of latchkey children is the increase in dual income and single parent families. Studies on the effects of the latchkey phenomenon report conflicting results. The potential positive consequences, including learning to be independent and responsible. The potential negative consequences include loneliness, boredom, fear, and academic underachievement, drug and alcohol abuse, accidental injury, and impairment of the parent-child relationship. Such wide variations in reported consequences in latchkey children might reflect differences in the maturity of the children and in parent-child relationships prior to entering the latchkey arrangement. Counseling parents about the problems associated with latchkey arrangement, referring children to an after-school program, and teaching children self-help skills might minimize the possibility of negative consequences. So when you pair being a latchkey kid with being like a single parent household, and then you pair that with poverty, what the hell do you expect that to result in? A lot of the time. That's not to say that people have no choices in the matter, but like, again, when you're talking about means, motivation, and opportunity, the golden triad, as it were, like, at that point, what do you expect to happen?
I don't know. I don't know. Stuff. Sorry. Kata told me that I had to make a cup of tea. They even...
Alan Matherson, link is in the description. It is Nervardia.
And I am planning on... I think I figured out why I haven't really been doing too much filming recently. I have realized that I am working more than full time at the moment because of all the COVID stuff. I am an essential worker, and yes, I have not had a week off in about a year and a half, so I'm pretty tired. So I do apologize. I am very close to just voice recording and showing pretty pictures at the moment, but there's scripts that have been written. It's just doing the
okay, so apologies if I'm mispronouncing her name, but Khadija Mbawe was the creator that I was thinking of. It's going to be a little bit delayed on your guys' end, but I'm putting a link in the live chat to the video. I believe Black Women Are Going to Save Us All, in which she goes over the idea of like the adult parentification of Black women, and also the assumption that Black women are just inherently stronger than white women, among other things. And so, yeah, that is one of the interesting videos that I've seen from her. But like, her entire channel is incredible. Like, I've really, really enjoyed a lot of her content. Like, I've especially enjoyed the videos that she did on like the Slim Thick Influencer, racism and horror, her video on the Tyra Show. Like, these are like, I've been watching her channel for a while, and I really, really enjoy her work. If you have not seen her work, please go check it out. It's really, really good. So, the other one that I've actually seen a lot of is Shanspear. If you guys haven't seen Shanspear, I really, really enjoyed her work as well. So, there we go. All right, Mero, you're making tea while you're waiting for kettle to hit. You want to watch the next little section?
Sounds good. Thank you, Akeda, by the way, for making me go up and get some tea. So that's I have to do what I have to do. So,
and Ozymandias actually brings up a good point here. Men do most of the violence, therefore we need more men making the rules to make there be less violence.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, but
that's also like, okay, so here's what I don't get. God is non-binary. We've already established this, right? Mm-hmm. God is either non-binary or agender. God transcends gender. So it's like, you know, they are one or the other. So like, children in houses without fathers specifically are more likely to commit crime. That's premise 2. Premise 3, men do most of the crime. Premise 4, we've got men also have like impulses. Who stemmed the first impulses if God is not actually a father figure? Where did we get the fathers making the rules there?
Triomni God cannot exist. That is why I am very confident in saying that the Christian God does not exist.
That's confusing to me. Like these things do not add up. All right, let's watch the next one. We have been at this for almost 2 hours and we still have not finished this video.
And do not steal. If the father figure / rule giver that boys need is not on earth, a morally authoritative masculine God can serve as an effective substitute.
Source? Can we get a source on this?
No.
Like, I don't. How can this serve as an effective substitute? Because, like, we've also established that, like, latchkey kids have interesting psychological effects on them. So, like, let's assume that the single parent is dad. He's still not in the house most of the time. What makes you think dad number 2 is going to fix the problem? Like, I don't understand what this is.
Yeah, the logic of Dennis Prager is somewhat to be desired.
And also, like, this argument here is it can serve as an effective substitute. But, like, for who? Because a lot of violence doesn't specifically come from kids from single-parent households. Like, yeah, they're more likely to be violent and commit crimes according to the statistics. Again, mostly because of poverty. Socioeconomic factors and such showcase that that's the case. But, like, not every criminal is from a single-parent household. So, like, what about people who grew up with dads and they're still assholes?
But also we'll need to define what violence is, because I honestly believe the removal of rights of a human being is a violent thing. And yet Dennis Prager continuously argues to remove the rights from people.
Rowena, I completely agree with this sentiment here. I'm going to just leave that up while Mero explains for a second, like, just to admire the statement there.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a hot take, but I do believe that Dennis Prager and the ideology that he espouses is a violent one, like inherently is quite violent, because he argues that he argues against helping out people who are less fortunate. He argues, like, you know, I did the list earlier on the stream, but basically he tells everyone that what he is like, basically he says abortion is evil, and yet I consider to stop a person from being able to access abortion of all genders. So I actually believe that paper abortion should be legal, just because there are some.
We got another donation that just came in from the server. Ozymandias, thank you so much for your donation. It was we haven't gotten quite up to $50 again yet from the donation. But we have may Ares protect the Ukrainians and may Athena end the war.
Yes.
So also,
agreed.
Please tell Mero to get some caffeine.
I got my tea in a mug that unfortunately is wrong.
It is the opposite of Friday, in fact. It is Monday.
It's Tuesday for me, but it's also got an exclamation mark.
Yeah, but your time zone doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also got an exclamation mark.
It's always Monday in Antarctica.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's try to finish this video someday. We are 3 minutes into this video and we've already yelled at the lack of subtlety so many times. So serving is an effective substitute. What about people who have dads that are effective and they just turn out to be assholes? Because that's a thing that happens. There are people with good parents that are just assholes. They make bad choices.
Dennis Prager.
Any discomfort you might feel with the masculine depiction of God is not comparable to the pain we will all feel if boys are not civilized into good men.
What?
So you think worshipping a genocidal maniac will make you a better person? Sorry, I apologize to anyone whose ears just ruptured again. I apologize.
Civilized. Notice the language there. We've been talking about African American kids almost this entire time. Like, even the researcher that they picked out, and the quote they picked out was from an African American man, Notice the term civilized and think about that for a second. Like, just let that sink in.
Mm-hmm. And to be perfectly frank, I would have to say that white culture is a hell of a lot less civilized than cultures that were destroyed by white invaders. Like, all you have to do, from what Ali has told me about indigenous people of the US, like the Native Americans, First Nations.
First Nations generally is how it's identified in Canada and in the northern parts of the United States. Indians, Indigenous Americans, or Native Americans they're all acceptable terms depending on where you are in the U.S. It's a very regional thing. So First Nations is appropriate. All of those are appropriate. Native American is the term that I usually use because that's the term I grew up using. But like, if you're out in the Midwest or in the South, a lot of people will just identify by the term Indian, even though it's like, Columbus.
Racist. Yeah. But yeah, like from the cultures that you have explained to me and some of the things that you've your laws and the way your law you did all of that
cultural
sort of stuff.
Norms and such.
Yeah, hell of a lot better off. Hell of a lot better.
I mean, there's a reason that the U.S. government created anti-indigenous propaganda, because a lot of people would run away and go join indigenous tribes. Like, they made anti-indigenous you can find this shit online. They made anti-indigenous propaganda saying you're going to lose your soul if you run off to the savages. Which, like, as in somebody who has indigenous heritage, that's kind of hilarious. That, like, people were so miserable in the colonies that they ran off to go be a part of a different culture.
Yeah, and like Indigenous Australians, like First Nations in Australia, they like some of their cultural practices were pretty civilized. For example, they did I can't remember what they called it, but basically if there was a crime committed, rather than having a person stand in front of like the jury and all that sort of stuff, they would sit around, and then the victim would basically be supported by everyone around them, and the whole mob would just basically cause that person a lot of shame. And so that was part of their justice system, was to basically, rather than separate the victim from the perpetrator, they would force them together, and then everyone would kind of look angrily at the person and then sort of tap their feet going, "You bastard." And apparently that actually, like, I think they've started to use that system with people brought it back in to start that system again. And apparently it works a hell of a lot better than the system that we've got going from the white civilized people.
I just wanted to point out, like, the boys are not civilized and good men. This is an assumption that people are born evil. This is literally original sin. And, like, that is not what psychology teaches us. Like, for one thing, the like nature versus nurture phenomenon is so mixed. Like, that is such a deep debate in psychology. It is oversimplified to say one or the other is dominant. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, there's a whole number of different factors. But on top of that, the assumption that just people are, especially, again, people who identify as men in my chat, I'm talking to all of you guys. I am so sorry that he thinks so fucking low of you. That he thinks that without somebody, like, whooping your butt, because, like, let's face it, instilling good rules means physical punishment to PragerU. They've talked about that in the past, too. They defended spanking in the past. Like, I am sorry that they think that you all need so much more governing in order to stop you from being monsters. I'm sorry that PragerU is that misandrist.
Yeah. I just want to have to say, Alan, is it just me, or does the word civilized just feel dirty to anyone else? It's dirty.
It is dirty.
It is, like, maybe not so much, like, if it didn't have that connotation, then it would be like, like, if you're looking at it from purely an anthropomorphic anthropological sense of the word, like civilization. They found a town that's 4,500 years old, and they'll talk about the civilization of that area. That's not dirty.
Fire. That is fire right there. Yeah, to me, civilized is just a weird way to spell I'm racist.
Pronounce I'm right. Yeah, pretty much. Yep. That is definitely ghost pepper.
Yep, that's ghost pepper right there. All right, let's.
Yep.
Again, men, all men. I'm sorry that PragerU thinks so low of you. I'm sorry that Dennis Prager is talking down to you, and I want you to know that both Marrow and I, and Marrow's perfectly capable of telling me to fuck off if I'm wrong, both Marrow and I believe you're better than that. Both Marrow and I think that if any person, like regardless of gender identity, is given means, motivation, and opportunity, and they want to, they can do good in the world. I do not think that being good or bad is an inherent characteristic at all. I think that consequences are ultimately consequences one way or the other. You can try to do a good thing and end up with a bad outcome. You can be not educated enough. You can believe that a bad thing is just in the moment. You can justify it to yourself. There are entire cognitive dysfunctions around that. There are personality disorders that cause us to twist our views of reality and justify horrendous things that need severe, severe treatment for people to get through them. I have a friend who is an actual diagnosed sociopath, who is actually a fairly decent human being, despite having to overcome an immense amount of hurdle that most people would never even be able to dream of. Because he doesn't have that thing in his head that all of us do that repulses him when he gets those violent thoughts that everybody gets.
Yeah.
So, like, it is so much fucking harder for him to suppress those things. And yet, he is the person that I can call at 3 in the freaking morning, sobbing my eyes out because I had a flashback dream, a nightmare. And, like, he'll be there. Because it doesn't cost him spoons the way it would anybody else to hear me sobbing and freaking out. He chooses actively, despite the fact that there's no emotional compulsion for him to do so, to help me. And that, to me, is the definition of virtue. Even if his impulses internally would lead you to believe otherwise. Even though he literally does not feel empathy the way that you and I do. He does it anyway because it's right. And that, to me, is what virtue is.
Yep. Agreed.
Marrow, you know all about my sociopath bestie. Like,
I do, yes, and I would say that your sociopathic bestie, if it wasn't for them, you would be kind of screwed.
I'd be dead. I would literally be dead. That's a story for another stream. But if it were not for this particular person, who I've referenced in videos in the past, by the way, I talked about them in the PragerU of Satanism video because they gave me an anecdote to share about sociopathy, because E.A. Coetting was arguing that sociopathy is actually what godhood is. And my friend was like, actually...
Sean Williams says, we are probably going to G-word the first intelligent alien civilization we encounter just because they aren't human enough. That's probably true. That's probably true. I mean, we're kind of doing that already to some pretty intelligent animals already. Again,
crows,
elephants. I like, the more I learn about
whales,
elephants, the
dolphins.
Yep. Like fish, actually. Fish.
I helped you learn about that.
Well, you helped me with that one, but I had read an article that was saying that with the removal of adult fish from the ocean has actually shown, like, their societies are starting to collapse because there's no intergenerational knowledge being passed down through from adults to offspring. So we're doing we're genociding a lot of animals and a lot of societies, that just because they're not human. And it's terrifying and heartbreaking. And anyway, we should probably continue on with this because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
All right.
To transform a wild boy into a good man, a male role model
Wait a minute.
Is
Was
it-
that a bunch of weed leaves? Was that a bunch of pot leaves right there? Is that what I saw?
No. Close. Hang on.
From a
1, 2.
wild
No.
boy into a good man, a male role model is as necessary as a male rule giver.
Is he all good for trans people now? Are we transforming people from one to another? Everyone, Dennis Prager is pro-trans.
Well, the thing is role model and rule giver are actually two completely different roles. A rule giver can be a bad role model and vice versa. And if you're going to try to argue that the Christian God is any kind of fucking role model, I'm going to remind y'all that there's a story in the Bible where not only does he get his butt kicked, but later he commands people, the tribes of Israel, to kill all of the men and to forcefully non-consensually take the wives and women, children of those men as their wives. And I'm going to let you all think about what a married person might feel about that. I'm just going to let you all think about that. Is that the role model that you want for your kids? You know, the person who decided because he wasn't actually sure if he loved him enough or if he was just being too nice to him to literally kill Job's entire family with disease, riddle his body with disease, and then yelled at him. When he didn't push back, he asked why. All because one of his buddies up in the heavens was like, are you actually sure that it's because he loves you? You think that's a role model for your kids?
Not really. My work keeps ringing me, but I'm hanging up on them, so I just need to quickly send them an email.
Like, legitimately. Do y'all think that? Because again, I'm also going to remind you that even, let's say you're saying Jesus is the role model. Jesus said, slaves, obey your masters. Paul, who was, the main writer about Jesus after he saw a ghost version of Jesus, said the laws, leave Caesar unto what is Caesar's. The laws of humanity are put there, the rulers of humanity are put there by God. Don't question authority because God put those rulers there. Is that a role model to your kids? If there's an unjust power structure, is that a role model to your kids that you want? Is that a rule giver that you want?
No.
Is that the person who you want to be giving your morality system from? Because remember, the 10 Commandments are not actually the only morality system in the Bible. And Jesus specifically says that he has not come to abolish the old laws, but to fulfill them. So technically some of the crazy cults out there that try to follow the exact letter of biblical law are more accurate to the, I guess it would be a messianic cultus that Christianity originally was. They're closer to the apostles. Some of those crazy cults are closer to the apostles than most modern churches, even the more progressive ones. Now, that's not saying that they're right. I'm saying that if you talk about biblical inerrancy, then they're more accurate to the word of the law, as it were. And some of those laws are things like you can't have tattoos, you can't shave your face. There's a lot of really interesting laws in there if you're trying to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I've pointed out in other videos about the Bible being polytheist, the God of the Bible said that there are no other gods, but then went out of their way to humiliate the gods that they previously said didn't exist. In Exodus, specifically, to shame the gods of Egypt, among other things. I mean, he also, they also got their butt whipped by Chemosh in one of the other ones, as Ocean Kelto pointed out, and I pointed out in my video on polytheism in the Bible. There's mentions of the Greek gods in Revelation.
And also, you don't forget about the removal of Lilith from
that's not even in the Bible.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. She was removed from the Bible. And also there is, talking about God's wife as well. There is a God
There's
had a
only
wife.
one rule that says, "Thou shalt not have any gods before me." But yeah, like that's a big one. There's
Mhm.
the other rule you might be thinking of is, "You shall not make yourself a graven image," as in not of other gods or of the God of the Bible. Which,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be respectful to Jewish folks. A lot of people have been very unhappy with me pronouncing the God of the Bible's name. By the way, total super chat donations have now hit $50. So Marrow, you're up for 10 more jumping jacks.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10. You guys are good. Thank you.
Yeah, so the 10 commandments that we know are not the actual, quote, 10 commandments. Yes, there's that too. But again, they are 10 commandments out of a very, very long and complicated set of rules governing, like, sacrifices, governing all aspects of human behavior, specifically with the covenant of Israel. So, like, again, when you're looking at all that, like, it's a different context that you're discussing a lot of these things. So I don't know how y'all feel about all that, but yeah, like this idea of, I don't feel like this person, like this being, would be a good rule giver or a good role model. Like, I don't think that either of those roles, which are two completely different roles, I'm going to stress the hell out of that. Like, I would not say either of those roles would be good for the God of the Bible.
Yeah. And also, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, if you have a God that requires you to worship them, or else you get sent to eternal torture, I mean, why would you want to worship that particular creature? He's evil. He's evil.
Yeah, I mean, even the like Platonists and Tartaros, like, you're only there for 1,000 years, like, and then you go back to living again, and you get however many lives it takes before you get sent back there, or manage to go to the train of the gods, which is not what I believe it happens in the afterlife personally. But even that, like, from which the hell belief is most likely based, even that is significantly better in every way than eternal and you can't get out of it torture, or just non-existence, which I would argue is just as bad. Like, everybody else gets to be immortal because they, like, bowed down before me, but you don't because you didn't.
Yeah. It is wrong. All right, shall we continue?
So when the Bible depicts God as merciful, compassionate, and caring for the poor and the widow,
No.
it is not so much interested in describing God as in providing a model for humans.
What? Okay, so this is Jesus that could describe potentially, well, except when he got mad about, the people that were selling shit in the temple, in which case, like, he just went full rage mode, just like his daddy. He took after his dad there for a minute, but, like, again,
he's a socialist. Jesus is a fucking socialist.
But, like, for this, okay, so again, the Jewish view of the God of the Torah and the Tanakh, the God of the Tanakh is a very different entity than the God of the Bible. Because, again, with the Tanakh, you're not looking at, like, literalism with the rabbis and with folks that are, like, you're looking at a bunch of argument about what you're supposed to take from that text. But this idea right here, merciful, compassionate, caring for the poor, that's Jesus? Like,
And
this
that's
is some
not
Trinity
Dennis
shit
Prager.
right here.
And that is not Dennis Prager. He only talks about how this is good when it's not, when he's sort of called, That's the only time he talks about being merciful and compassionate and caring for the poor and the widows. Only when it's good for him to, it's good to do that. And then yet he will talk about how caring for the poor is a bad thing. Like, he's so inconsistent. Oh God, that man isn't. I hate that man.
Especially human male. So, like, I guess human women, like, people who identify as women generally, like, don't need to emulate these qualities. What?
Awesome.
There's some subtle
awesome.
sexism assuming that women are just like nicer, I guess. Again, we're back to misandry. Y'all, men in my chat, I am so freaking sorry for all of the misandry in this bloody stream. I am so freaking sorry that like these people think of you so horrendously that they think that you are incapable of being a good person without somebody like beating that into you. I am so sorry that this is the truth.
Princely Puck. Are women allowed to do crimes then? Yes, we are.
I mean, like, the thing is women do crimes. Like, they do. There's just an assumption that, like, women are less violent in some way than men. Which, I mean, like, testosterone does play some role in anger, but, like, there are women who have high levels of testosterone in our systems. Excuse my stomach, by the way. Apologies for that. Hi, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Very, very common among, like, folks that are mixed, especially. So one of the things that does is my ovaries being covered in little bumps. Sometimes those little bumps cause them to malfunction, and they just dump testosterone into my system. I will grow a little bit of facial hair when that happens, not like a full beard or anything, but a little bit of peach fuzz that you can actually see. I will get extremely aggressive. I'll get cranky. Mero can usually tell when this kind of stuff happens because, like, I will be an irritable POS. I'll be mad at the world. I'll respond to things much more nastily. My body just does that. So
you become a POS when you have POS. So
PCOS, yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, when you like you become a POS when you have PCOS. Sometimes your body just dumps hormones into your system for no freaking reason other than it can. Now, I'm on birth control to control that, to keep my hormones kind of steady. It stops it from happening all that often. I'm on a very long form of birth control because it also causes horrible things with the cycle we talked about earlier. But my PCOS causes me to have flare-ups of anger like the kind you would see. Like, I've had higher blood testosterone levels repeatedly because of this. It causes me to break out too, among other things. It's really frustrating. They do that. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Nevermore, women aren't considered people in Christianity. That is true.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and in the Middle Ages, I mean, some modern people still think that, y'all. Like, we're seeing that in the South especially. I'm not going to name states, but y'all know which states are currently...
Texas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that there's a good chunk of, like, the Republican Party that still just sees women that way. And, yeah, the Quiverful movement's a good example of that, too. So, yeah, I would not agree to these being the God of the Bible. And I also disagree that Jesus could be also the God of the Bible. The Trinity makes no sense. All right, let's move on.
Especially males to emulate.
Again,
if God were depicted as female, young men would deem traits such as compassion, mercy, and care for the downtrodden as feminine and would not identify with them.
They already do that! They already do that, though! They literally already do that. People who are merciful, like men who are merciful and compassionate, get called cucks all the time. They get called all kinds of nasty names. This is already true. This is already exists in this current world at present. Like right now, this is already a problem.
Yep. Out of curiosity,
this is a misogyny problem. Like this is taking. I'm gonna try and find my words for a minute. Like for all of you who have access to the emotes, I'm having a staring at the paper looking confused moment. I'm trying to get my thoughts in order. This is taking the current...
She's doing this.
This is taking the conclusions that the way that misogyny exists in the modern day is the way that it has always been. This is assuming that, even though this statement here, that mercy, compassion, all of that is considered feminine, that is not the case for all of history. That is not the case for every culture. That is not the case. What? These are not gendered traits. But they're already assumed to be feminine. The fact that you, Dennis Prager, I'm gonna yell at Dennis Prager for a second. I'm so sorry. You, Dennis Prager, assumed that especially men need these modeled for them. Because they're clearly, you think they're feminine traits. Because you said especially men need this modeled for them as masculinity. Why don't women need that modeled, Dennis Prager?
If God, therefore,
Why? Why don't women need this modeled, Dennis Prager? Why don't they? If they're not assumed to be feminine traits in this current society that currently exists, these things are already dismissed as feminine traits.
Are you done?
Maybe for a minute. I'll let you go so that like I can finish loading.
Okay.
I'm just like, I broke. I'm sorry, but like the stupid. How do you not, as a viewer, like any PragerU viewer, how can they not stop and see that the assumption was just made for them that these are feminine traits in literally the last sentence that he uttered, that especially men need these things modeled for them or they don't naturally do them. That implies by principle of entailment that women don't need these things taught. That implies that they are feminine traits that must be taught. So why? What?
It's I don't know. Like, Gaia says Aaliyah Kai rage at 87%. I think it's a bit higher than that, Gaia.
No, if that were that high, I'd be British.
Good point.
This is just mind blow frustration, really. Like, this is just how the fuck are, like, and the thing is this is why they move everything on the screen so quickly. Notice that when they make statements like that, things move quickly so that your eyes are so enraptured by what's going on, your brain doesn't have time to catch up to the fact that he literally just contradicted himself.
Mm-hmm. The thing is,
this is far more accurate a statement, Sean. Error 404, Leakai's brain no longer found.
I mean, that's fair. That's my default. But with like
Serpent Rose, 100%. Everyone needs these things modeled for them. They should be societal fucking values. These should not be parental values. These should be societal values. But what do we get from this society? No, rugged individualism, bootstraps, even though pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, of course, causes your feet to fly out from under you. No, we get this idea that you, yourself as an individual, are responsible for everything. And although there is some level of truth to that, there's also the absolute proper conclusion, the truth of the world, as it were, that differences in culture create differences of outcomes. If your culture states that you must survive completely by yourself, off of your own wits, off of your own labor, off of your own strength, if you do not believe that you can rely on anyone else, if you do not have a strong fucking community, you know what bloody happens? Then when shit hits the fan, that's when you get looters, that's when you get marauders, because people do not trust that their neighbors won't do it to them, so they have to do it first. When you create a culture of distrust and judgment, societally, then you get shit like this.
And also the fact that these care for the downtrodden, mercy, compassion are feminine.
Yeah, this is also true, Florence. It assumes you have the money for bootstraps.
Also implies that being feminine is also lesser as well. Like, because of the misogyny of people like Dennis Prager, being loving and caring, have mercy and compassion, blah, blah, blah. You know, the way he frames it shows that being feminine is lesser as well. Like, I don't know if I'm reading that correctly or if my brain is doing the loading symbol, but
he's assuming that women just automatically have these particular values inborn. But like he's actually portraying men as lesser, as in they're more violent, they're less controlled, blah blah blah. But also he talks about male leadership being necessary. So like there's a women are lesser and more at the same time. He's constantly contradicting himself. Which, I mean, like, that's par for the course for PragerU, but the specifics in the way that he does this, he's making it sound like he's actually being progressive, while in fact perpetuating the exact stereotypes that he's claiming that a lack of a male role model in the form of an all-consuming deity would lead to.
Yeah.
We also just got another donation from Alexis Tristan Shaw. Thank you so much for your donation. And yes, you did send it correctly. So if you would like to write a message in your ticket for me to read out, I would be absolutely happy to do that. So thank you so much.
Do I need to do star jumps?
We are not at star jumps yet. We just did the 50. We're back up to 10 more. So we're 10. We need 40 more for you to do star jumps.
Okay, awesome.
Just so you guys know, we have broken over $1,100 raised between the 2 weeks before and the stream itself. Okay,
how many have we done for this stream? How much closer do I need to go?
We're at 500 and 530, I want to say. Let me check. We are at 530.
Okay. All right, so 470 more and you get to see Lilith try to eat me. Please.
All right. So let's try to continue on this. I apologize, y'all. Assigned compassionate at birth. That is a very good point. That also happens as the same.
ACAB.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the same acronym as ACAB. Assigned compassionate at birth. Also, all cops are bad. Yeah, most people are capable of compassion. Our current society tries to beat it out. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. That is absolutely true. So, yeah. I'm sorry for freaking the hell out there, but that specifically pissed me off. The assumption that women are just automatically kinder, the hypocrisy of that statement of saying that men will reject those values, they already fucking do. Because these are not seen as the values of the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible is touted for his strength, his dominance, his leadership, not these qualities.
I mean, if you wanted to meet someone who really cares for the downtrodden, who is merciful and incredibly compassionate, I would like to introduce you to my boyfriend, Not Your Witness. He is genuinely one of the sweetest people I've ever encountered.
By the way, if y'all are looking for XJW content, go check his channel out. It's excellent, excellent XJW content.
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Father in heaven who is strong, on occasion even a warrior, cares for the poor, and loves justice, mercy, and kindness, then these traits are also masculine.
Citation needed.
I think my eyeball almost fell out of my head from the roll.
XJW is an EX Jehovah's Witness. As an ex-Jehovah's Witness, as in deconverted Jehovah's Witness, aka apostates. Jehovah's Witness apostates. Not Your Witness does excellent ex-Jehovah's Witness content.
And Elise, if I pronounced your name incorrectly, I'm sorry. Lilith is my pet snake, and she's adorable, but has the brains of a rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is not a smart snake.
No, but I love her. She's beautiful. She's a very gorgeous animal.
This is a good point. Why do they need to be masculine? I mean, to be honest, why do we need to brand qualities of being as masculine and feminine? I eventually am going to do a whole video on the pagan manifestation of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I know that some creators disagree with me. I know that there have been videos done by other folks. I have not seen them, but I have my own strong opinions on divine masculine, divine feminine as signifiers and shorthand in the age where gender is becoming far more personal, individual, and identifiable than as societal sort of roles. And I think that honestly, a lot of that stuff ultimately becomes a box that people are trapped in as much as something that people identify with. I understand that folks identify with a lot of those qualities, try to cultivate them in themselves, and that's fine if you enjoy that. But I think that it is inherently limiting to specifically categorize specific virtues as being masculine or feminine. There are excellent women leaders. There are extremely compassionate men. There are powerful, incredible women warriors. There are excellent, loving fathers who stay at home and take care of their children.
Yeah.
There are incredible men who lead vast charities that give mass amounts to the poor. And there are women who have led despotic regimes and killed people.
One of the most successful pirates was a woman. She ended up being like, you know, massive fleets, was probably one of the worst people in history. She was a woman. I can't remember her name, but yeah, she was one of
Let's
the
talk about
most.
Elizabeth Báthory, like the woman who like
I think she
literally
was-
bathed in the blood of young girls.
I think Zhang Yi Sao. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Same, Serpent Rose. Like, I've actually argued for paternity leave in addition to maternity leave because I think that men should be able to be with their kids during the first parts of their life, same as women.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I absolutely do. I think that that is something that should be required. Helen didn't, like, Helen actually even had somebody who argued for her, like, in antiquity. Helen is an interesting case. And Bonnie,
okay.
Mary Read, Elizabeth Báthory, like, there's a ton of women in history that have done absolutely horrendous fucking things. The thing is the restriction of women's rights made it so that it was a lot harder for people to catch female criminals.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to try and pronounce her name because I will completely ruin it and be just. I apologize, but this pirate, she was Chinese. She's a Chinese pirate leader. As the unofficial commander of the Guangdong Pirate Confederation, her fleet was composed of 400 junks and between 40 to 60,000 pirates in 1805. So she was one of the most successful pirates in history.
Chung Yu.
Yes. That one. Yeah, she did some pretty horrible things as well. Like, she wasn't but yeah, there was lots. Yeah, and you said Mary Read and Bonnie. Like, there are some pirates out there that were very, very strong, capable leaders who
there's
happen to have a vagina.
Like, there have also been women serial killers. There have been women who, like, were caregivers and, like, murdered old people in, like, using injections of insulin. There's at least one that I can think of that did that. Yep, the Angel of Death. And then I also saw a video just last night about a woman who, trigger warning, we're about to talk about babies, and we're about to talk about babies dying, and we're about to talk about birth. So if you don't want to hear about this, if you don't want to hear about that kind of violence, here's your trigger warning. Oh shit, I can't believe I watched this last night. But there was a woman who gave birth to at least 7 babies and then strangled them and put them in boxes in her garage, wrapped in electrical tape, paper bags, and plastic, and they were not found for 2 decades. She gave birth. Nobody knew she was pregnant. She gave birth in her home. She killed the babies and then put them in boxes, and nobody knew about it until she moved out of the house, and almost a decade later, when her ex-husband was doing spring cleaning, they found the bodies. She was a meth addict.
Okay, right. Okay, because I'm just trying to think, how do you conceal 7 pregnancies from births?
But nobody knew. Like, apparently she was a
from
homebody.
a husband. From your husband, though. How do you...
Her husband was high on drugs all the time and never noticed the pregnancies.
Okay.
So apparently that was the excuse that was... I don't even understand how she managed to do that. That's a thing that actually happened. That is a real life thing that actually happened. And, like, there are also examples of way too many women teachers that take advantage of young boys. Like, that happens. And, like, especially teenage young boys get laughed at if the teacher is physically attractive. Like, there's an assumption that, like, blood flow equals consent. I'm going to put it that way. I'll put it in as polite of terms as I possibly can. There's an assumption that blood flow on the part of a man equals consent, which it does not.
Does not. No.
But yeah, That's a thing that has actually happened. That is a true crime video that I actually saw, and my mind was fucking blown. I could not believe that somebody could do, like, how could you just cold-blooded kill 7 freaking babies?
You were high on meth?
I guess, but like at least 2 of them were after she got off meth. Yeah. And she had been off meth for several years when she confessed to the police. And apparently she just described it in this cold, calculated way.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So that, if you want to talk about that sort of thing, like, you know, the assumption that women are just automatically compassionate is fucking ridiculous. It really is.
Yep.
I mean, you know, and to think PragerU is worried about the trans people, you know, any trans people doing that kind of stuff, like, oh boy. Anyway, let's try to go forward. But like the inherent assumption here that women are just like nicer or something, the existence of a bunch of the women we just listed kind of disproves that inherently. And they can't just be the exception that proves the rule, because there's many of them for every single. Yeah. Also, that woman does have 2 living daughters. Also, Sean, any teacher taking advantage of hormonal teenagers is disgusting. Absolutely, no matter what a gender identity of the person is. Absolutely. People should not be taking advantage of people with massive age gaps.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we go on, I would like to remind everyone that we are still taking donations.
Yep. We just got one, actually.
Ooh.
Holy crap.
How many?
$500.
Oh, does that mean I have to get Lilith to bite me?
Yes.
All right. But I'll do the star jumps first. So how many star jumps is that? That's
50 times 10. So that's 100.
100 star. Fuck. Damn it. All right.
I'm gonna out you, Akeda. Akeda, are you sure you've got enough money for all this?
Akeda, I love you, but at the same time, I don't right now.
All right, let's count them, guys.
5, 6, 7,
8. All right, so while poor Mero is getting her entire month's worth of exercise in, so yeah, goddamn it, Akeda. Can I get a goddamn it, Akeda from the chat, please? Like, we need to collectively yell at this incredibly generous motherfucker, because holy crap, dude.
34, 35.
Gee, what do you do for a living that your tax refund's that big? Holy crap. 500 divided by 500 divided by 50 is 10. That is what I was working backwards
51,
there, Philip.
52, 53.
We're halfway there. You can do it, Mero. My spirit is with you, woman.
64, 65. 73, 74, 75,
Yeah, I agree with this sentiment. We're almost 3/4 of the way there. You can get it. You can do it.
84, 85.
Son of Sothis. Hey, I haven't seen you around for a bit. Get a stick jump more. It's almost done. You can get there. You can do it.
100.
There we go.
Akeda.
All right. Well, that puts us at we're at over $1,600 raised, guys, between the server and this stream. Like, between the 5 servers that work together and this stream, we are at over $600, or we are at over $1,600 raised directly in donations for Ukraine, with the exception of a few super chats here and there for folks who didn't want to donate directly and pop into the server. I am so incredibly proud of this community. Like, for such a short stream and for such a small community, like, I don't have even 10,000 subscribers yet. But y'all came together as an allyship community, and we've managed to raise a huge amount of money, particularly for United Help Ukraine. which is getting medical supplies and food and heating and such for people on the ground there right now. It is based in Ukraine. So again, all of that money is going directly to folks affected by the conflict. They're also using it to purchase supplies like defensive supplies for the military. So it's a big deal. Voices for Children is giving shell-shocked children counseling. The crisis relief fund. Oh, you're getting eaten.
Yep, there you go.
She
Thanks
is
for
not
that.
a smart snake.
I mean, I love her. She's beautiful. But yeah, I think if you're lucky, you might even see her try and eat my finger.
Well, we're getting bit for the rest of the stream, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, Mara, you worked up a sweat. You got to burn your calories off this morning. Like you started your day off right.
Yeah.
Can y'all tell that we're best friends? Oh, poor Marrow. Wow. I am so blown away by this fucking community. Like, I'm sorry if this is boring for y'all to hear, but like, I am just, my heart is swelling with pride because we have 5 smaller Discord servers. Not a single one of us goes over like 1,200 members. And this channel, which we've had a good 40 to 60 people through most of this stream, like, and we've somehow managed to raise almost $1,600 in relief for kids and like food, medical supplies, defensive supplies. It's gonna make such a huge freaking difference. Like, it really is. And we are such a tiny community, but we came together as atheists and pagans to try to make a freaking difference. Like, y'all need to do a round of applause for yourself because this community is amazing and I'm proud of all of you. And I'm so, so happy that we have this community.
So, yeah, everyone, there you go, round of applause. Thank you very much, everyone, from the bottom of my heart, except for Akita, because...
You'll get over it. All right, let's try to finish this damn video because I promised y'all we would get through this. Let's try to finish this damn video.
And to be emulated. The argument that girls equally need female role models to avoid violence is objectively not true because the problem of mayhem and violence is overwhelmingly a male one.
I wonder why. Remember that assumption that like men need corralling, like the boys will be boys shit? I wonder why. Because women are socially punished because of these assumptions significantly more for violent behavior.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, there's another study that was done a while ago that shows that if a person is told the sex of a baby, they will start treating that baby different. And those babies can pick up on gender roles as taught by the way that they are treated different from as young as 6 months old.
Yep.
Regardless of the actual sex of a baby, if a person has a baby dressed in a way where their sex appears to be inferred, people will assume if that baby is identified in some way as female, they will coddle them more. They will be more concerned when they do things. They will ignore babies that are identified by male characteristics or male identifiers like blue clothing and such. They will allow them to take more risks, make more mistakes, those sorts of things. From birth, gender roles are instilled. And certain kinds of societal punishments and acceptance, like the class clown, if you are a woman and you try to be the class clown, at least when I was growing up, that got you ostracized. But the boys being funny made them popular. And this is, again, completely ignoring folks who don't identify as either a man or a woman. People who identify as some variation on binary. People who are gender fluid like me. People who are agender completely. People who have, like, xenogenders. People who identify with neopronouns. Like, this is completely ignoring the massive spectrum of gender identity that exists. And of course, PragerU would. But since we have a non-binary God that we are already identifying here, that we're just arguing needs to be masculine for some fucking reason, wouldn't a non-binary God be a non-binary role model? And again, a model for a not very great role from what we've already talked about in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know blue wasn't always a boy's color.
Alrighty.
I've got to say, like, this is not completely true. Like, there's a mix of issues here. There's the testosterone in the way that it deals with aggression, but there's also male, like, gender roles. There's the way that toxic masculinity, which not all masculinity is toxic, but there is such a thing as toxic masculinity. It's the way toxic masculinity affects men. It's the way that, no equals maybe is taught in the media, is often taught by older men to younger men. It's the way that people are taught by society what their role is supposed to be. And the thing is, women can be violent. Women are just often either, if they are violent, it's punished in a different way societally, or they're violent in different ways.
Yeah.
People consistently underestimate the power of emotional violence, of emotional trauma.
Yeah.
But some of the nastiest psychological wounds I've had inflicted have been inflicted on me by women.
Shall we continue on?
Yeah.
Of course, girls need female role models, but not to avoid violence. And like boys, girls are more likely to obey a male authority figure.
Why is that, Dennis Prager? Have we hit on that? Gender roles in society teaches this shit? He's acting like this is an inherent biological fact, and it's not. Also, we're ignoring intersex people completely, as per usual.
Yeah, that's right. And also, the whole, did you kind of get that? I don't know if I'm just being paranoid or if I'm just reading into it or whatever, but he kind of gave that, there was like an inflection in his voice that basically said that, girls are not likely to be more violent. Like there was a insinuation that we're more likely to stay at home and be the homemakers and stuff like that. Did I get that? Okay, cool. So I'm not misreading that. That kind of hurts, Lilith. Thank you. That's better.
But like, also, again, we have this influence of obedience. Girls are more likely to obey a male authority figure. Did an authority figure, Mero, tell us to do this stream, or did we do it out of the kindness of our hearts?
We did it out of the kindness of our hearts.
Like, both of us were just like, I had a horrendous upbringing, right? And we've talked about your problems with your family many times in the past. Like, last I checked, I didn't learn morality, like, from either of my parents. I mean, I got my work ethic from my mom. That'll definitely give her credit for. But, like, the level of compassion that I have is in part a product of the trauma that I experienced.
Yep, that's
which is
true.
Another thing in, like, women's stories that people often miss. And again, this is all women. Because people are assuming because he's making this out like a sex binary, I have to keep reminding everybody this is all women. The constant trauma and abuse that women face, you can either go two directions with that. You could become a complete narcissist, which is the route that many TERFs go, or you can, like, say, us, go a much more kind and compassionate route. You can try to be the person that you didn't have. Or in my case, the one friend I did have who's no longer with me.
Yep.
The donations directly to the orgs. Yes, Alan, that is what people are submitting in tickets. Every donation, except for the couple that have been in super chats, has been directly to the orgs in tickets. The reason I'm not showing them is some people didn't redact their legal names, so I'm not going to display them on screen. I will, however, tally up the total and put in an announcement at the end.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, like, again, there's this assumption that people are inherently bad, and only obedience to an authority figure makes people not be bad. And that's bullshit.
Yeah, because what if the authority figure is a bad person? What would Dennis Prager say about the people who are in Russia right now protesting against Putin and his reaction, like his invasion of Ukraine?
I mean,
Like,
there are grandmas hauling around like Molotov cocktails defending their freaking country in Ukraine right now, which is badass and is the right thing to do. But it also shows that women are perfectly fucking capable of violence.
That is true.
People literally paid for Mero to hurt herself.
Yeah. She's got her teeth sort of like where she's sort of like pulling, and like it doesn't really hurt, but every once in a while when she pulls, it's like having like just needles and just tugging on you. So it doesn't hurt, but every once in a while it's like, oh, that wasn't fun. So
all right, y'all.
Don't
we've got 1 more minute of torture left.
Yeah, and hopefully by then she will have let go and she'll start actually eating my little finger, and so you can see what it looks like to have my little finger being swallowed. She's just going to deep throat my finger.
Well, I mean, I don't think Mero would want to eat her anytime soon, but she's not venomous either.
Yeah. Yes, the difference between venom and poison, everyone. This is a big one.
I demonstrated it with that joke, in fact, because jokes are funnier.
And I will continue. Yeah. So if you're poisonous, it means that you kill the thing that eats you. If you're venomous, you kill the thing.
That's a really good observation right there from Edsilla. You can tell this video was made by backwards 80-year-old men by the fact that they say girls instead of women and then say men instead of boys. They are subconsciously putting men above women.
That is true.
A report released by the Minnesota Psychological Association concluded in a study of female inmates, more than half came from a father-absent home. It is therefore ironic that some women are attempting to render the God of Western religious morality less masculine, because if their goal is achieved, it is women who will suffer most from lawless males. We have too many absent fathers on earth to begin to even entertain the thought of having no father in heaven. I'm Dennis Prager. Thank you for watching.
But wait, didn't he also argue at the beginning that God has no gender?
He did. Yes, you are correct. You are correct.
So there is no father in heaven either.
Guys are saying, what's missing, Dennis? There's more to that study. Okay. All right. So what was it? It was the Minnesota. And that's all I can remember.
All right, let's track it back, see what I can find. Minnesota Psychological Association in a study of female inmates. Notice how they highlighted the word female, not woman inmates, not girl inmates, female inmates. You know, trans women don't count. Not to Dennis Prager. Some asshole's gonna clip that out of context, I swear.
Okay, so he doesn't give. Ow.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sean. God has no gender, but here's why it's important to present it as male.
Okay, so Minnesota Psychological Association, female inmates. That's I can't. Oh, here we go. Father absent homes.
Implications for criminal justice. Okay, here we go. It is
cited by 6, by the way.
Yeah, tiny study. Lack of paternal involvement has also been associated with a higher likelihood of being bullied and experiencing abuse.
Yep. So,
but the thing is like having a god, like most people statistically are Christian. So like clearly, you know, having the god be presented as male is not doing much if this is still the case. This is another thing that like PragerU is conspicuously ignoring that I kind of want to bring in our conclusion because we're hitting the 3-hour mark. Is like the fact that currently the majority of the United States, which is the only country that Dennis Prager cares about,
just pointing out the stretch.
She still doesn't.
Nom.
She still doesn't know that you're not edible.
No.
So, like, this is a reminder that the only country Dennis Prager cares about is the United States, and the majority of the United States is Christian. Therefore, it can be concluded that a so-called father in heaven that portraying the admitted by Dennis Prager to be a gender deity of the Bible as male is doing exactly jack shit.
Yeah, well, God is kind of absent from pretty much everything.
The study is from 2004 with data from the early 90s.
When was the that video made by Prager?
I'd have to open it again.
Sorry.
Oh, let's see. Why is God a he? Let's go back to that. So God is not a he.
God doesn't exist, in my opinion. So it's kind of hard for something that doesn't exist to have a gender.
That video was made 2019, May 16th.
Okay, so they were using information that's 20 years old.
Well, this one has citations from 2007 in it.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, the one that I found here is August 4th. It doesn't say the date on it. It's got citations from 2011, 2012. So this is newer. Children, poverty and homelessness. Children from absent father homes are 4 times more likely to be living in poverty. Often children with an absent father also have less networking connections to aid them in the working world. Let's see. Given the large research rate suggesting that children who grow up in homes without a father prevent adverse outcomes at rates significantly above those with fathers present, attention to this phenomenon is perhaps warranted by clinicians, researchers, and policymakers. But yeah, if God was enough, then wouldn't this not be the case?
Yeah. But it's not enough. And then you've got the question of evil, like if God is all loving, like why does he allow evil to happen? Then I need to learn that off by heart because all loving, then he's either unable or doesn't care to, or problem of evil. Problem of evil.
So yeah, like I don't know how this argument can work if the majority of people are Christian that currently exist in the United States still, and yet these things are all still the case.
Yeah. So, Rose,
I don't know how much that's been studied, but generally, unfortunately, because of the way that custody laws skew towards sexism, more often mothers are given custody over children during divorces and such. Like, it is just far more likely, even if the mom might not be as fit of a parent as the father. It's one of the things that like men's rights activists tend to go on about that is actually accurate, but feminists also are very concerned about it. If you actually, talk to feminists who know about the problem. We actually talked earlier about the assumption that women are automatically better caregivers and more compassionate and kind, and how that contributes to these sorts of problems.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's a horrible man, that Dennis Prager. Are you going to let go, Lilith? That'd be lovely if you could do that.
So yeah,
You know,
that
no.
I think kind of wraps up the charity stream. Like, we talked about the two big things that we wanted to talk about. We kind of ended up repeating ourselves a bit, but that's because that video was just that asinine.
And you all got to see me get eaten by a snake.
Yep. We raised, again, I'm still blown away. We raised $1,000 in this stream, over $1,000 in this stream. I'm gonna have to go back and total everything up. But we raised over $1,000 in the stream, and we raised over $600 before the stream even started, with all those messages that I read off for everybody that like participated from other servers and stuff. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Thank you all so much for being present. Again, for anybody who watches this through, YouTube is stupid and likes to put tons of ads on all of my live streams, as Mero unfortunately finds out whenever she watches my solo lives back.
I screenshot it and go, by the way.
Yeah, like YouTube just auto puts those there. I didn't put them there. But all of the ad revenue that this video generates until the end of the month, I'm going to be tracking. Thank you so much, Sean, for the $5 super chat. What YouTube lets me keep of the donations, which, again, for all of you who did not donate directly to the charities, for all of you that donated instead to the super chat, YouTube takes a third of it. The other 2/3, Mero and I have both agreed to give our cut of the show to specifically Voices of Children are where the donations from the show are going, because the vast majority of the donations went to either the Crisis Relief Fund or to United Help Ukraine. And there's also going to be additional stuff going on with United Help Ukraine that I will announce as I complete the objects for that particular portion of things. So this is not the end of the efforts to try to raise some money for Ukraine that are going to be happening over the next couple of months. I'm going to be donating a bunch of my effort. I'm going to be making hats, headbands, and gloves that folks who like decide to pick them up, those full donations minus like sales tax and shipping, are going to go directly to United Help Ukraine. So I'm going to be working on that. I have some other stuff in the works, but thank you all so much for helping us with this charity stream. Thank you all so much for being so incredibly generous. Ikeda, we're looking at you especially. Holy fucking shit. Thank you all for being such an amazing community. I am so proud of how this community has come together. I'm so proud of the generally extremely like positive way in which folks have discussed. By positive, I mean generally healthy, generally not warmongering. We've had a couple of problems in the server, like those people have already been talked to, but for the most part, you know, very productive discussions have happened on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. What is going on there is absolutely atrocious. And I thought that it would be, instead of like gaming or trying to talk about what's going on in Ukraine, I thought that like doing a PragerU video response, which people have been asking us to do on the show forever, and, you know, talking about some less commonly known about news would be a really fun way to kind of give y'all something uplifting and or angry to sort of talk about without having to dwell in the horrors of war for a while. So
yep.
Thank you all again so much for coming out. Thank you all again so much for your donations. Thank you all again so much for being amazing, for being this incredible positive community that we all share. Thank you for your allyship, you know, for the atheists that are hanging out in the chat. Thank you for your interfaith, you know, allyship, for the pagans that are in the chat. Like, thank you all so freaking much for everything, for being here with us.
And the same thing to the people in my service. Thank you very much for your donations. And thank you very much. You know, it is really heartwarming to see us come together. We achieve more being allies and friends than we do.
One might even say we're stronger together.
That is true. We are stronger together.
So thank you all again. We've come to the shill portion of the stream. Mero, you've been working on some stuff, but we've already sort of talked about it the last couple times.
Yep. I just need to learn how to face plant a pillow more. Ow, ow, ow.
So my next upcoming video is not coming this next Thursday. It's actually going to be coming the Thursday after. I did a collaborative on Encanto with Lannon, aka Rotwork or Rotworked. who is a Mexican-American creator who does Mesoamerican reconstruction. And he and I did a script together on the racial generational trauma in Encanto and how we saw it in both of our families. And how I did a deep dive into Colombian history as best I could. I actually reviewed the script with a server member from Colombia as well to check for historical accuracies. And they actually did find a number of historical issues. So big shout out to Zipikir for helping me out. Zipikir is also going to be helping me with pronunciation when the time comes to record. So again, thank you so much for that. But that's what I'm working on. This comes at a time where I've been accused of a number of things. If you want to know more about that, information's in the Discord server. All I have to say about it, I've already said. I'm not going to get into it anymore. But the thing is I'm not going to dox my family or get much deeper into my family story than I need to. There are certain things that I will never know. And there are certain things that I do know for sure. And if you find problems with the way that I express those things, I come to ask, does it actually mean anything for the work that I do? If I say something that is inaccurate that I believe is true, does it actually mean something one way or the other, what percentage I am of certain things? Again, if you want to know more about that, go ahead and look in the Discord server. There was some really screwed up stuff that happened well before I set up the stream. And I'm doing my best to get through it, especially because I was working on this video to come out this week where I am talking about racial trauma, where I am being very vulnerable with some things that happened with my family. I ended up having to call my family because of a doxing threat, and I had to take out some of the detail from the script at their request because they were worried some details of our story might identify individuals in my family, and I really don't want my family getting doxed. So that's been terrifying. Because somebody who claimed that they knew me in high school apparently said that they were a genealogist and that there's a chance that I could get doxxed. I didn't know who this person was. I've never heard their name before. The name that they gave of the person that I also knew, I've also never heard before. There's weird details about their story. So I just want you all to know that I've addressed it as best I can. I'm not going to address it again. I'm getting sick and tired of all of the accusations regarding certain things. I am making this video out of love and to raise the alarm about indigenous issues that are happening in Colombia and other places around the world. But specifically, Colombian history has a really dark side when it comes to the way that indigenous folks were treated and are still being treated, and the indigenous movements that are starting to go on there and reclaiming identity and such. So Encanto covers that brilliantly.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive movie. It is a good movie.
So yeah, I'm going to do everything in my power for that video to try to cover things as best I can. Unfortunately, because of some of those threats and such, I wasn't able to do as much as I was going to do. But the Encanto video, I'm really excited for it to come out. I'm really excited for the collaboration. Lannon is going to be doing an entire spot. And the conversations we had that led to this collaboration were incredible. So there's my announcement. I'm sorry that it went on a little bit longer, but again, things have been rough. It's been difficult on my end. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. As I say at the end of every one of my streams and shows, we're stronger together. And as Mero and I say together, allyship is healing.
Yep. Also, she's hungry.
I guess it'll be easy to get that video then, huh?
No.
She's always hungry.
She is.
All right. Lilith, you are not a smart snake. All right.
No,
have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.